Fresh out the box. Fresh out the box. Fresh out the box. Fresh out the box. Fresh out the box.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our show, Fresh Out the Podcast. Man, it's time to go. All right, I'm Johananon. Welcome to the podcast. We're going to be talking about stuff today, and with me, Johananon.
It's me, Casualty CDG, the co-host of Fresh Out the Box, and also Fresh Out the Podcast. If you like tabletop role-playing games, you can come check Jahan and I out every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're doing original stories, making stuff up, having fun with friends, joking around, clowning around, and then sometimes there are horrible, grisly, dark murders, and everybody laughs, and it's a good time. But that's not what we're doing right now. This isn't Fresh Out the Box. This is Fresh Out the Podcast, where we podcast. And today we're talking about things.
That's right. We are talking about things. I am the professional media and movie mastermind at the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and it's been a while. And we, the last time that we all talked, we were talking about all the things that we were anticipating in the year 2023. And now here we are over a month into said year. And some of those things that we've talked about have come out or been made available, and we have had a chance to view with our eyeballs. And so we finally get a chance to talk about it. And, earlier in the week, I was fully planning, because we haven't talked The Last of Us yet. And I was like, we're just going to have full-on Last of Us discussion for a full episode. And then James Gunn has to go and give all of this DC news over the past week that is just perfect podcast fodder for all of us to attack and pull apart. Gary, you have a big old smile on your face. What's got you feeling so joyful?
We're just so happy to have you here again today, Drew. You're just our favorite guest to have on the show.
A favorite guest that's been on for 73 episodes.
Yes, that's right. It brings joy to the heart of Jahan and I that you have decided to grace us with your presence. You are our favorite guest, and I like how every time you come on, you always bring topics for us. It's a really nice thing for a guest to do.
It is.
It's like somebody that shows up with lunch for everybody, but instead it's just topics of conversation. Is that what's happening here?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's like a good dinner guest. Man, I totally forgot about this one, but you just reminded me with that whole our anticipated. I had one on my list that has already come out, crashed and burned. One of my most anticipated shows. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Let's give it just a minute here of discussion, because I believe, if my memory serves correctly, you were referring to the Velma animated series. That's
you mean my number 2 most anticipated show of the year? Yeah. So that came out. I watched about 15 minutes and turned it off because it was one of the biggest pieces of garbage I've ever seen. And I felt kind of bad because I was like, I can't do this, man. This is bad. I don't normally do that shit. But then it became the lowest rated show in IMDb history. So I feel vindicated. It was, oh my god, it was just it had nothing to do with Scooby-Doo. It had nothing to do with the characters in the gang. It was just these completely new people wearing skins. It was some guy dressed as Freddy, and it was just garbage. It was hot garbage.
It's really funny now. I just Googled it real quick, aka Binged it, because why would anybody Google in a world where Bing exists? But I'm looking at the ratings. 10% of Google users like this show, 42% on Rotten Tomatoes, and a 1.4 on IMDb. It is that bad. I can vouch for it. It is that bad.
It's terrible.
It is pretty bad. I feel like it's been initial reviews came out and they were pretty negative, and I know for myself personally, I was like, no way it can be that bad. And then I watched the first episode and I thought it was pretty bad. I immediately go to my chat with y'all, and it was it almost felt like all three of us had watched it at the same time, and we all reported back to our messenger and we're like, this show's really bad.
Real bad.
Simultaneously.
An F with failing, not with the opposite of flying colors, just an absolute tank F. Worst show maybe ever. It's very, very bad.
I was very excited for adult Scooby Gang, but this wasn't that.
I love Glenn Howerton, and I thought that Glenn Howerton as Freddy would be redeeming, and it wasn't. Not even close. It was also very bad. The whole show was just a cringe fest of nasty puke.
It was very cringy, and I just had goodwill for HBO Max and the animated series with like Harley Quinn and how much I do like that show, and so I was like still willing to give this one a shot. And it's not Harley Quinn. It is
How
not
much?
anywhere
Not
near
close.
as clever.
How much Harley Quinn did you watch?
I haven't watched all of it. I've only seen like most of the first season. And I
In
like it a
the
lot.
second season, it gets really bad, but then in the third season, it gets good again. But like halfway through the second season, it gets like really thirsty, and all she wants to do is just fuck Ivy all the time, and it's just scenes of them making out all the time because they want to abscond with each other. And then season 3 is like, okay, let's stop, because it just really got off the rails. It really turned into this nonstop sex show.
It did.
Which was what Velma was. So I was, I was kind of worried that it might be that way. But then Harley was able to get back on track, so I figured that HBO learned that formula didn't work. I guess I was wrong.
Yeah, so Velma already getting certified not fresh out the podcast.
But I thought I heard that it's already renewed, which
I think
I
it
don't do
seriously
that.
got renewed within like 48 or 72 hours. But that was because the viewership was so high. It was before a lot of the ratings had come
very,
out, so-
very good view. Yeah, everyone watched it and then hated it, and they were like, "Oh, they like it."
Yeah, I'm not sure if they kept that, but it did. I heard it got renewed as well.
I'm trying to think of a segue from Velma back into DC talk, and the only thing I can think of is HBO Max and the Warner Brothers connection. So I guess I'll take that as a leap to go back to DC.
Okay, try it out. Pole vault across that chasm and let me know how it works out for you.
Speaking of irredeemable pieces of shit, the DC Cinematic Universe.
There you go. That's a good one. I should have gone with that one.
Well done.
No, so I mean, I guess to lay it all out. So they were saying for a while when James Gunn and Peter Safran got the roles as head of DCU, or the DC wing of Warner Brothers, they did say after a few months they would kind of reveal their plan. And sure enough, it's been about 3 months, and they revealed their plan. And so they stuck to their word, and it's interesting. I guess I'll kind of go through some bullet points first, which is that they have their essentially their phase 1, which they're refusing to call phase 1. They have labeled it as chapter 1, God and Monsters. So that's what they're referring to their phase 1 as. All of the franchises or things that exist outside of that, such as the Robert Pattinson Batman universe, the Matt Reeves Batman stuff, the Joker sequel with Joaquin Phoenix, some other things, that's all going to be considered DC Elseworlds. So basically, those are the side stories that are not within the DC universe, which is what they're calling their new cinematic connected universe. It used to be the DCEU. I think it was DC Extended Universe. Is that what it was called? Or something like that. Whatever it stood for. They've dropped the E. It's now just DCU.
You're making
So
my
anyways-
brain tingle and go fuzzy.
Yeah, so there's DCU, all their interconnected stuff that's upcoming. Elseworlds, all their side stuff. But then there are some previous DCEU things that have yet to come out. Shazam sequel, the Flash movie, an Aquaman sequel, and all those things are still, the plan is for them to still release this year. And it almost sounded like Gunn said that the characters in those movies have the potential to come back or make appearances in the future, but it's very unclear. It's like super gray area.
If it wasn't, then it wouldn't be the DC.
Yeah, I was like, oh boy.
It's always been a confusing mess. He's trying to grab a hold of it and make sense of it, but I imagine that's difficult.
And then, of course, they have a hard enough time with those existing projects, and the fact that, like, the star of the Shazam movies making potentially anti-vax comments on Twitter, and then you've got of course, like at least Ezra Miller is getting help, so they say, and they, I hope that he gets the help. I hope that they, that get the help that they need, before that movie comes out, because everything that I've heard about the Flash movie from an insider's perspective is that Warner Brothers is extremely confident in that movie, and that movie is supposed to be one of the, even Gunn said in his little press conference, it's apparently like one of the best superhero movies ever made, which of course the new head of DC movies is going to say that, but apparently the test screenings for it have been awesome, which is why they've been sticking to their guns that they want to release it. So
to their James guns.
Yeah. And then, in more on that, the Batgirl stuff, the debacle that happened last year, apparently that movie was like unsalvageably bad. And
just read that too. I was really excited because everyone was like, it was just some kind of thing for a tax release. And I was like, nah, man, it was probably just absolute dog shit.
It would have to be so bad though for them to.
It probably was.
They've said it would have hurt the brand. It would have hurt the brand, is what they've said.
I think it would have hurt the brand, and it would have hurt some of the actors' careers. And this is the year Brendan Fraser had The Whale, and I don't think that Firefly as a villain would have done anything to help him this year as far as acting is concerned. His performance in Doom Patrol is by no means Oscar-worthy. I don't think he's a great villain, and I don't think that movie would have been... I don't think he could have saved it. I don't think anything could have saved that movie, and I'm glad we don't have to see it.
I mean, all we have is their word for it. I don't know. It would have to have been so. I've never heard of them taking a AAA movie and just putting it in the trash before. It's so weird.
It looked bad on paper, man. I'm glad it didn't happen. I'm glad it didn't come out. I am sad that we can't get somebody to like sneak into the DC vault and steal it to the internet for us, because I think I would still like to see it, even though we all know it's going to be terrible.
I want to see it. I don't know. It exists. It's weird that we can't see it, but hey, it is what it is.
So so they did announce a bunch of projects that would be part of this Chapter 1 DCU. And there are some animated projects, TV series and films. And it's worth noting that they did say for the animated projects, they're hoping to cast the actors that would be voicing characters. They hope to have them double if they do any live action projects in those worlds, that they would play the characters both in live action and voice the animated characters, which
is kind of crazy.
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
It's going to have to be, written into their contracts, I'm sure, because generally voice actors and screen actors don't get paid the same amount.
Right. And then their strategy here, which, I mean, makes sense, is that they are, there's going to be big name heroes and things as part of the DCU, but they are also trying to elevate characters in the worlds around their big three. Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman being the big three. They're trying to find ways to elevate some more supporting characters from those worlds to essentially create more franchises or make bigger names out of characters, which makes sense for Gunn, the guy who made Rocket Raccoon and Groot household names.
Yeah.
Or even a character like Peacemaker, who now's had his own show. Like, these are...
Man.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's
oh my
what James
God.
Gunn does.
I watched that movie again yesterday. Or 2 days ago. It was so goddamn funny. But yeah.
I'm not surprised at all to hear that he's pulling up some more obscure outside characters. In fact, that's what I'm looking forward to, so I'm glad that's what he's doing.
See, that's always what I felt that Young Justice was doing. It was pulling these side characters into the limelight, the sidekicks and whatnot, and made them awesome. And I want to see more of that. So I'm here for it.
And it's also worth noting, unsurprisingly, again, since James Gunn is one of the people in charge, is that it seems like the Suicide Squad is kind of feeding into this DCU stuff, that it is connected. Because, and I'll use that as kind of a entry point into some of the series and things that have been announced. So one of the series they announced is Waller, which is a Viola Davis in a spinoff of Gunn's show Peacemaker, playing her character Amanda Waller. this head of the government task force, who she's in charge of the Suicide Squad. She has a couple appearances in Peacemaker. So that's one of the shows in the works is Waller. There's also a Creature Commandos 7-episode animated series that Gunn has apparently already written, and it's already in production. And this is...
I got a picture up, and it looks sick.
What is Creature Commandos?
I'll read to you what they have here listed in the Hollywood Reporter. Originally a team of classic monsters assembled to fight Nazis, this is a modern take on the concept. And then it says what I mentioned earlier. The voice actors have yet to be cast, but the executives are looking to find people who can voice the animated characters and also portray the live-action versions when the antiheroes show up in movies and series. So yeah, so that's Creature Commandos, not a franchise or DC, not an area of DC that I'm really well versed in. But if I don't see the image you have up, Jahan. I can't see it, but if it's the one that I'm looking at,
it is
kind of awesome.
Do they have?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Hollywood Reporter too.
Yeah,
Do
okay.
they have like a rating for that show, ish?
It looks like it's going to be
a mature.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would
that
assume.
makes a big difference.
So judging by the characters that I'm seeing, so one of the characters is from the Suicide Squad. It's the Weasel that killed 27 children. So I would say probably adult, and then it's got like Bride of Frankenstein looking good, some sort of robot, and then a Frankenstein.
I like the Frankenstein design.
I like the Frankenstein design. That guy that you can see inside his bones because he's an energy person. I've seen him before in, I think he's a Superman villain or something. Then they straight up have Abe Sapien, but a girl, though. And then handsome McGoodlooking over here, probably some sort of shapeshifter person.
Handsome McGoodlooking.
Handsome McGoodlooking is just like, Randall Flagg knockoff, somebody like that. Just one of those, and a military guy.
Maybe he's the guy that's like, I gotta whip these monsters into shape.
Yeah, because there's always, and a military guy. There's enough. You always slide one in.
Well, they got to. It's in the contract that the government makes all TV channels sign. They have to glorify military service.
That way old white guys can get jobs, because it's tough for old white guys.
It's tough out there for an old white man.
All right, so that sounds good. I like the sound of this first show that I've already forgotten the name of.
Creature Commandos. And same.
Commandos.
Then it looks like the first of the films to really kick off this new chapter in DC, in the DCU, I should say, is Superman Legacy. So this is a Superman movie that apparently is not an origin story, but is going to be a younger Superman. Gunn is apparently already writing this, and he might direct it. They didn't say if he would or not. It was a may or may not situation. There's no commitments that have been made. So yeah, this says this is the true kickoff of the DCU. It focuses on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. He's the embodiment of truth, justice, and the American way. And a release date of July 11th, 2025 is what has been penciled so far.
So the kickoff for this is in July of 25. Is basically that's reading between the lines there at the short notes. Also, I'm not as excited for this one. Superman could very well be my least favorite superhero, but I will go see this without a doubt.
Yeah, I feel like those first two projects, Creature Commandos and Waller especially, since it has a star already attached to it, they can probably turn that around sooner. So I would imagine we might see Waller and Creature Commandos in 2024. And then, Superman Legacy in 2025.
One of the best Superman comics is The Death of Superman. But I still like him. But, I understand why people have an issue with him. He's just kind of an all-powerful being. I don't know. It's not the most compelling thing, but it is interesting to talk about.
Villains aren't compelling because he's strong.
They're not very compelling. You're not wrong.
It's one of the hardest parts for me is Spider-Man has some great compelling villains because everybody's almost street level. and so you can identify with a lot of the problems and the complexities of these characters. But whenever fucking Brainiac comes in and is going to take over the world because he's a super smart synthesized computer, and there's just, tentacles bursting out of the ground, you're just like, I don't know, there's a real disconnect for me there. I don't connect with Superman or Brainiac. I don't give a shit about most of those characters.
I mean, that's fair. I really appreciate Superman in the context of the Justice League. I think he's great there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, his shit always has to be cranked up to 11 because he's cranked up to 12. And you're not wrong. That's why I appreciated Superboy being a weaker version. It was much better. Yeah.
Let's see, we've also got Lanterns, and this is worth noting because for a long time, Greg Berlanti, who was attached to a potential Green Lantern TV series, and for anybody who doesn't know who Greg Berlanti is, he's kind of the guy that's been in charge of all the DC shows on the CW. So The Flash and Arrow,
the Arrowverse,
and Supergirl, and all those shows. That's all his thing, which has been super successful. But it is worth noting, as part of the new DC plans, those shows are all scrapped. They're done. They're ending. Whatever's on now. I think The Flash is in its last season right now.
They've been on long enough. They ran out of stuff that I watched. I kept up the Arrowverse for a long time, and they ran out of material.
I actually really liked the Flash show when it first started, and I stuck with it. I think I watched all of the first 2 seasons and maybe into the third, and then it finally got to the point where
I really liked Arrow. I thought Arrow was really good. I liked the Flash. I greatly enjoyed the Legends of Tomorrow. I thought that was fun. I thought it was funny they took a Doctor Who companion character and made him the Doctor, essentially, and made him the captain of the time ship. That was cool. Supergirl was also good. I thought Supergirl was dope. But yeah,
I watched a few episodes of Supergirl and actually liked it too.
It was good.
But yeah, so Greg Berlanti for a long time was working on a Green Lantern show. It's worth noting that's been scrapped, so that is no more. This is a whole new thing. DC, Gunn and Safran have parted ways with Berlanti, and so this is a new take on the Lanterns, and I believe this is a TV series, if I have my information
Yeah,
correct.
I think so.
And their description of it is they want it to be in the vein of HBO's True Detective series. It's going to be like True Detective, but with Green Lanterns. So I guess a kind of detective mystery aspect of it, but with the Green Lantern core.
I mean, as they mentioned in this article, and just, Green Lantern, they're space cops, so it's kind of cool.
Yep, and it'll feature Hal Jordan, Jon Stewart. This is considered to be one of the most important shows that they have.
This has mad crossover potential because the lanterns cross through realities, they cross through time, they can control all sorts of different things. So this,
it's a great point.
This Lantern show will probably be great. This to me is more exciting than the Superman movie. Because this will give us a look at another James Gunn show that's not silly like Peacemaker. This one should be, while it will probably have some comedic parts, I would think probably not as just inherently silly. Looking forward to that. This would be a good one. And I think, did you say or did I read that it's going to have both lanterns, right?
Yeah.
That way
Did say Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart.
Yeah, that way you don't have to pick between your favorite lantern.
Jon Stewart's my favorite.
That solves the problem, though, because they're both great lanterns, and you're like, damn, which one do I pick? And, why not pick both?
Hal Jordan's great, but I grew up, my Green Lantern was the Justice League Green Lantern, and that was Jon Stewart, so.
Pretty sure that...
From the animated show.
In a storyline, not every storyline, how comics be, but Swamp Thing is a White Lantern. He ends up becoming a White Lantern, which, they are life, and that's sort of why he is
makes sense.
Animated swamp, because he is life. He's basically a swamp elemental.
Ooh, we'll get to some Swamp Thing in a bit too.
Yeah, but that means that we might actually get to see this, right? So there is going to be a Swamp Thing something. So if we're going to have these lanterns, then maybe we'll get White Lantern Swamp Thing. And I've said this in February of 2023, so you guys will see in 20 years when we get our White Lantern Swamp Thing. I'm gonna
My-
be like, didn't I say that on the podcast?
Off the top of my head, my two favorite like lantern combos are both Yellow Lanterns, and it's Batman and Scarecrow. They are both great Yellow Lanterns because it's fear, and Batman as a Yellow Lantern's awesome. Just in my opinion, I want to see that.
Scarecrow as a Yellow Lantern.
Scarecrow's
That's
good.
Next level.
Yeah, it's pretty top tier. But yeah.
I think
next-
Drew could be a Yellow Lantern because of his ugly face. He strikes fear into the hearts of children.
Oh, Drew.
Just giving it a displeased look at my.
Oh, is that what your face is?
Yeah, I couldn't tell because it's just such an ugly.
Oh man,
Not to
I'm
throw-
sorry. I didn't want a dog pile. I didn't want a
I've
dog
just been
pile.
letting you guys go. I've just been letting you go. I've been sitting here reading the paragraph for the next movie, and I've just been waiting for y'all to get to an end point where I could infiltrate and go to the next movie, and then instead it just derails to the point where you're talking about me being a Yellow Lantern because I'm ugly.
I had to mute
strike
you
fear.
because your hell voice is even uglier than your ugly face.
Oh boy.
I was excited today because we haven't been able to podcast in a few weeks, and like I've been legitimately excited to do this. I really
too,
have.
me too.
And
Enjoying it. Yeah, I'm having a great
you,
time.
You all managed to make me regret everything so quickly. And the next movie is called The Authority. And when I read this description, it makes me think of The Boys in a way, just reading the description. But it says a movie based on a team of superheroes with rather extreme methods of protecting the planet. This I guess this was a comic book from the late 90s under Wildstorm that Jim Lee was kind of in charge of at the time. And one of the things they say here is they compare the characters in this to being like Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men, which is like the people that they have to do what they have to do to make the world a better place in their eyes, you know, or like what, you know, the links they feel like they have to go through, even if it's maybe not like what's good. They do what they got to do. So that's The Authority. This is an IP that I'm really not familiar with at all. This is probably the first that I've really heard of it is here on this
Same.
list. So, that's
I
The
got
Authority.
Question marks on that one. Still looking forward to the Lantern Corps.
Yeah, the next one is Paradise Lost. This is what they're describing as a Game of Thrones style drama, but it will take place on the all-female island from Wonder Woman's comic books called Themyscira. This, I believe, is like set way before Wonder Woman is even around, like so early in the history of this island. So political intrigue and scheming between power players in the, you know, with all the Amazons. So that is Paradise Lost. Any thoughts there?
Sounds good. It could go either way. I'm definitely willing to give this a shot. Sounds cool.
Ass.
This next one is the one that I'm the most excited for. So, The Brave and the Bold,
Yeah.
which this is the DCU Batman film. And Batman will be in it. It'll have Bruce Wayne, but it sounds like he's going to be a little bit older. And it'll be the first time that we'll see on the big screen Damian Wayne, the version of Robin.
Yo.
So they are going to do the storyline, you know, bringing in the Bat family and Bruce Wayne's son, Damian, who is a little, you know, murderous assassin tween Robin.
So
So,
that's the DCU we're gonna get, because if that's the Batman we're gonna get, that's the setting we're gonna get. So you're looking at Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul. They're gonna be tied into all sorts of crap all through this
Bro,
series.
it's one of the best Batman things that
There
they've
are
done.
going to
Yeah.
be so many ninjas because Ra's al Ghul and Talia al Ghul command an army of ninjas. What a great enemy! Just a timeless enemy. You know, you could kill hordes of ninja and no one gives a shit. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's good stuff. Also, what is that? Deathlock's involved in that story, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways they could go with this, and
Damian
I'm
Wayne. By
very
the time he
excited
has
about it.
Damian Wayne, that means that Nightwing is off on his own Nightwinging, and
Yes.
maybe even Red Hood.
Maybe Red Hood
even
as well, yeah.
Jason Todd. So this is one of my very favorite Batman settings. That's great news.
Same, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and
The Bat
so-
family is where it's at.
And they were very adamant. This is a Batman that's not Robert Pattinson. This will be a different Batman, which they did then note that the Batman sequel, there is going to be a Matt Reeves sequel with Robert Pattinson. It is set right now for October 2025. As of right now, it's being titled The Batman Part 2. So, and it sounds like, I don't know what their plans are beyond that. They're definitely doing a sequel. I'm sure that it'll financially do well. They'll probably want to do another one in the Pattinson Matt Reeves universe if that goes well, but that will exist separately alongside The Brave and the Bold, which I think they can differentiate enough to be its own things. Here's the thing: Batman is one of the most recognizable superheroes out there, right? I feel like even mainstream audiences and people who don't listen to or speak on podcasts such as us or read comic books or read the film trades can understand, it doesn't matter. Batman's Batman, right? Oh, this is a movie with Batman that's telling this story. Oh, this is a different movie with Batman telling another story, right? I don't think it's going to confuse people that much. Is that crazy to say?
I mean, so you're giving a lot of credit to the general audience, but hey, they might be fine with it. Yeah, it might not be too confused, especially since you're right. They are very stylistically different. I really like the Matt Reeves Batman. Even though I really like it, I'd be fine with it not getting a sequel because I'm worried they're gonna ruin it. But hey, I'll give them a shot, and I'm fine. I think it's weird that they're allowing the continue. I think the Elsewhere stuff is kind of throws me off a little bit. I think it's a little weird because the whole point of what they're doing is to create one single continuity. This is not that, but hey, maybe it'll work.
Yeah.
I think it's also, I agree, it's a weird decision. I don't think it's the choice I would have made. I liked the Matt Reeves Batman enough. I didn't love it. I'm not super high on it. I'm not begging for another one, and I'm looking more forward to what James Gunn is pinning out. But there's always room, I think, for another Batman. I guess, there's not really room for another Spider-Man. When they tried that, it didn't really work out. There's too many Spider-Mans. You only
that we are in a world where No Way Home exists, and it had 3 different Spider-Men in it, and it made
Spider-Mans
over $1 billion and was very, financially successful. So
yeah,
that's
people
fair.
Love Spider-Verse too, and Spider-Verse has too many Spider-Man.
That's also true. Those are very good point. Yeah, maybe people can handle it.
And I think the thing here that's worth noting is visual styles are important. The Batman, the Matt Reeves stuff has a very distinct look. The dark and the reds and the color palette. And then maybe if they do the Brave and the Bold as a really different style, it'll be easy to differentiate the two. I don't know.
They should film it in a Brave and Bold way. That would be appropriate.
Let's see. We've got another HBO Max series that is Booster Gold. So they're doing a Booster Gold series.
What's
and that's
Booster Gold?
That's really all that they say about it. Jahan, what's Booster Gold?
Booster Gold is from the future, travels back in time to be a superhero because with his future technology, he can be a modern idol and hero.
That's right. He's kind of a con artist with a little time machine, and he uses it to appear to be a superhero to solve and fix things. I think James Gunn writing that could be very, very funny.
He's a silly character, but I'm interested.
Yeah, I am too.
Isn't he a pretty mouthy character? He's one of those fast talking,
he wants to be an influencer. So yeah, he's very he's one-lining. He wants to be a celebrity. He's being a superhero to be famous.
He's a prick from the future with a device.
Yeah,
that's what he is.
He's a spoiled future dick. Yeah.
A quote from Gunn calls it imposter syndrome as superhero. So there you go.
Yeah, that'll be funny. That'll be a welcome change of pace, I think, with some of the other stuff they're doing too. If some of that stuff doesn't hit, if there's some misses, I think that's one that's just going to be good. It'll be funny.
I can't remember if Booster Gold was in Young Justice, but he was either in that or Justice League. I don't remember, but he was definitely in an animated show, and I liked him.
It seems like a show that could could potentially sit by itself or just barely touch on a show like Peacemaker. That would just stay in the fringes of the show universe, but definitely see some overlap potential with a character like that.
I want to see him cross over with Peacemaker 100%.
Yeah. Without even having him cast yet, you want to see how Peacemaker's going to handle that mouthy little
I feel
like it's good.
I feel like I remember he has a best friend that's a superhero, and I want to say it's Blue Beetle, but I don't.
I think there's been Booster Gold and Blue Beetle team up comics
Yeah.
before, so that sounds right for me. But I'm speaking as somebody who's not like overly familiar with the character.
I'm not overly familiar. Yeah, it's. I would like that. I'm excited for Jaime Reyes too. So.
The next film on the list is Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. So this is based on a recent Tom King written miniseries, and apparently it's supposed to be like a pretty new, different take on the character, which is fine with me because again, Supergirl, other than the CW TV show, I don't have much exposure to. I haven't read a bunch of Supergirl comics or anything. So, but this says, let's see. We'll see the difference between Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by loving parents from the time he was an infant, versus Supergirl, raised on a rock, a chip off of Krypton, and who watched everyone around her die and be killed in terrible ways for the first 14 years of her life, and then come to Earth. She's much more hardcore and not the Supergirl we're used to, is what Gunn said about it.
Sick.
I was gonna say if the Superman movie is good, then this will probably be very good.
Yeah.
I think they're going to learn from what they did right or wrong, and they're going to make this even better. But it sounds like they're going to make this pretty dark and terrifying, which everyone likes a terrifying Superman.
I like darker Superman stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of terrifying, last is Swamp Thing, which they didn't really offer much description here, but they did say it will be a horror film, and it will close out the first chapter of the DCU. So that's all they said about it, is that Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, will end with Swamp Thing, and it is a horror film. So.
That's interesting. I wonder if Swamp Thing is going to kill a major superhero, because that is a weird world to live in. Like, what if we live in the world where Swamp Thing kills Batman?
So my favorite thing that Swamp Thing is close to, which is a movie that is coming out, but I doubt that it's in the continuity. Swamp Thing and Constantine have a strong connection. Constantine actually draws power from the primordial place that Swamp Thing is the keeper of or whatever. I think that'd be cool, but who knows?
You should pencil out a bubble narrative and write a little story about how you're going to handle Constantine from now on. And send it to James Gunn. Let him know you'll be his Constantine guy.
Bro, I would love to be his Constantine guy. Holy shit. I would lose it.
Guy.
James Gunn.
Not on this lineup.
James Gunn, let me do it. Yeah, but Keanu Reeves is doing a sequel to the Keanu Reeves Constantine. That's happening. And so
yeah, but it's not on this lineup.
It's not on this lineup.
New World, so you're gonna need to make a move.
Yeah.
Jimmy Bang Bang's gonna have to give you that job.
Just to go over a few other notes about some of the information that was released, which we've kind of touched on this, but just officially, they said just as John Cena played Peacemaker in Gunn's Suicide Squad and then in the Peacemaker series, anyone cast as, say, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart in Lanterns will then cross over into the films. And Gunn said, we don't want the series to feel in any way like Stepchildren or lesser than. It's just a different way, another way of telling a story. Then he also did talk about all the kind of the Henry Cavill debacle that happened a few months ago, and he was just pretty blunt about it. He said, we didn't fire Henry. Henry was never cast. For me, it's about who do I want to cast as Superman and who do the filmmakers we want to cast. And for me, for this story, it isn't Henry. And he said he liked Henry. Henry's a great guy. I think he's getting dicked around by a lot of people. But this is Superman. This Superman is not Henry for a number of reasons. So he did address that. Which is kind of what we knew. I knew, he wasn't contracted to any more movies, and they announced his return prematurely. It was a very odd scenario, and a shame for him because I did like him, but I'm excited for the future and
yeah, man,
and what they're doing.
Dude, man, the Cavill stuff really got to me because I loved him as Geralt. He was that character. He was perfectly cast, and he's a huge fan. And so he was killing it. He was a great Superman. But I am excited for his new project where he is running the Warhammer 40K television show for Amazon Prime, which is hugely just crazy for me, a lifelong Warhammer nerd. Warhammer has never touched the mainstream in a way that's even close to that. And so, hey, he got screwed over, but he's making lemonade, and I'ma drink it. So,
They, let's see. They also talked about, so going into the Elseworld stuff, we've got Reeves Batman, Todd Phillips sequel to Joker. There is also still, this has been talked about for a long time off and on, but apparently the Black Superman project that Ta-Nehisi Coates is working on is still in development. That's still something that they want to do, and it's being worked on, so that's cool. And then they also mentioned Teen Titans Go specifically, that will fall under the banner of DC Elseworlds and will continue. Which makes sense because it's pretty popular on Cartoon Network.
I used to hate that show, and it pissed me off so bad. But then I watched a bunch of it, and it actually can be pretty good.
That show is very much Stockholm Syndrome. You're very right. You have to watch so much of that show, but once you watch like 400 hours of it, it's pretty tolerable.
It's pretty tolerable. I don't know. Some of the episodes are really good. I really, really appreciate the puppet episode. If you watch the puppet episode, let me know what you thought on Twitter. Go watch the puppet episode of Teen Titans Go.
They did say, I like this quote from it's actually from Safran. He said, the bar is going to be very high for projects to be outside of the DCU, referring to the Elseworlds projects. But every now and then there will be something that lives up to that. So I think that's cool. I think that they're not just, going to make any and everything and anything not in the DCU they'll call Elseworlds. It sounds like they're really going to be, I guess, quote unquote, picky about what they're making into an Elseworlds project, and they'll make sure that it's a story worth telling, which I think that's good. They're not just going to throw everything out there at the wall and see what sticks. They're going to only make the stories they think are best. Hopefully.
I think that's a really funny thing to say because I think it should be the other way around.
That they should be making any and everything, and just what's good
they should be
good.
throwing their other crap at the wall and calling it Elseworld, and then being really picky about what they put into their.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I think it's funny that they said they're doing the opposite.
Yeah, it sounds like Elseworld, like, you can do whatever you want, no consequences, so do that.
That's what they should be treating it like, is like, just throw crap at the wall and put Elseworld at it, see if people like it. Let's make some indie films, man.
I guess their counter to that would just be that they want as many things to be as connected as they can, because that's the goal, is to, it doesn't sound like they want to be the MCU at this point. Like, they probably know they're too far behind and can't, but they want to have at least some level of being connected if they can. And
Yeah,
I guess
they
I
have
understand
no respect right now. They need to get some respect.
They do.
Right.
No respect at all.
You know what they need to do? They need to do a Zatanna show, and they need to give it to whoever did Brand New Cherry Flavor, and I'd watch that.
Is Zatanna the magician?
Zatanna is the magician, yeah.
Hell yeah.
She the way her magic works, she says stuff backwards. She'll say
Well,
like,
it's like pig Latin.
yeah, no, actually backwards, like fully, like completely inverse the letters and then pronounce it correctly.
So she just practices talking into a mirror all the time?
She says she makes jokes about talking backwards being her first language. So I don't know, it's a whole thing, but yeah, I like Zatanna.
I do think it's funny that there's a quote from James Gunn, who specifically didn't want all of this to be called the Gunverse, in the same way that, like, the Snyderverse was the Snyderverse. This is not the Gunverse. But I kind of feel like people are probably going to say that anyway. Like, everybody's going to know this is the James Gunn-led DC stuff, so it's always going to have his sheen on it in a way.
Maybe we could just call it the Jamesverse then.
There you go.
The James verse. Oh, they're gonna have to cast James the Rock Johnson.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Ah, my boy.
Now the Gunverse is the Batman universe where Bruce and the mother die, and the father becomes Batman and uses a gun to shoot people in the face. That's the Gunverse.
Gunverse is season 2 of Sword Art Online.
Oh, it is Gun Gale Online. Pow pow pow.
Well, Gary, how do you feel after we've gone through the DCU slate? Do you feel
There were some
first off,
things-
have you been educated, and do you like?
I've been educated. There are some things from the list that I remember. There are some things from the list that I don't. I think that's fair. There are some things from the list I'm excited about. There are some things from the list that I don't care about at all. So it's a good list, I would say. It's all over the place. It's got things for everybody, I think, is kind of my point. I'm excited for these projects, even though no names are attached to them yet. I like James Gunn's work for the most part historically. I'm really into streaming shows and binge watching shows. That's kind of my style. So with more Peacemaker coming, and then what's her name having her own show, then the Green Lantern Corps show, I think there's a lot of really good hits in here for me. It sounds like the theatrical ones are Superman, Supergirl, Batman, and those to me aren't. The shows I think are way cooler. So I'm looking forward to what they've got. I like what's on the list here. Bring it on, James Gunn. Bring it on, Jimmy World. Hashtag Jimmyverse, baby.
Perfect. Well, that is our discussion on. Oh, I mean, Jahan. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to skip over you, but I knew you knew a lot of this stuff already. Do you have any?
Yeah. I
remaining
mean,
thoughts?
some of it I didn't know about, but for the most part, yeah. I'm excited for most of it. I'll give each and every single thing on this list its shot. I'll definitely watch all of it. I will consume this as I have consumed everything Marvel. But
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I feel like of the projects for me personally, the only one I'm outright excited for is The Brave and the Bold. That's the one I'm like, yes, give me that. But I feel like I want all of this stuff to be good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm probably gonna watch and go see all of this, and if it's good, then that's even better. Like, make me a bigger fan of this stuff, please. I want to be a fan of this, so make me a fan.
as it stands, I'm excited for Lanterns, Brave and the Bold, and Booster Gold primarily. I'm also very excited for Blue Beetle still, and I hope that becomes a part of the main story.
I skipped over that. That was mentioned. It's still slated for August.
It is still coming, and they're saying that it'll touch stuff, and the fact that Booster Gold's getting a show gives me hope. But yeah, I'm excited for this. They've made some interesting choices, in my opinion. I don't know, man. It could go either way, but we'll give them their chance. James Gunn has a good track record, like Gary said, and I'll buy it. I'll check it out.
I think overall this looks better than it does bad. It looks
Yes.
better than worse, I would say.
It's not. Yeah, I'm not like, oh, this is what they're doing. Pass. Like, it's not. Like, I've heard what they have to say, and I am excited. So they did it. You know?
All right.
And we've got some years to wait, right? We've got at least 2.5 years to wait. So
we're not
no
just seeing
rush.
the first big screen entry until 2025. So
Don't
we've got
hold your
a
breath.
while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. Stay tuned. You will get our takes in the future as they eventually cast a Superman and hire directors, and maybe it'll be Gunn for that Superman movie. I'm sure we'll be talking about it as all that news starts to come out.
Absolutely.
Now we can finally have a little Last of Us discussion, because at this point, there have been 3 episodes as of the time we are recording. There will be a 4th episode tomorrow night, or tonight if you're listening to this on the day the audio drops. And we all had this on our most anticipated list, right?
Yep.
I think we all had it, like, not only we all had it, but it was all like number 1 or number 2.
This is my number 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. This show, I'll just start off, has been better than I could have even hoped that it was. And I guess we'll just start with that. I'd love to get your takes, just initial impressions before we get into the nitty-gritty of each episode. But are y'all liking the show as much as I am?
Yes.
Yes. In one word, yes, we are liking the show as much as you are.
Very much so. Not disappointed at all. I would put it on the top of my list again.
I would say one of the things that I am happy for the show, I'm glad that the show has and does, is the time jumps. The same way that Game of Thrones was able to tell multiple stories by jumping around, and this series is able to tell multiple stories without sticking to a linear timeline. It makes the show really compelling. You have no idea what's coming next. In the next scene, it could be 10 years ago. I think that is just a great storytelling device that keeps me hooked.
You know, sometimes I hate it when shows do that. This show does it perfectly. Like, it's great. It's seamless. It all makes sense. It's very well thought out. The time jumps are... They only ever add.
The performances. Let's talk about the performances, man.
I mean, what do you want to talk about? Pedro Pascal kills it in everything. I forget the young girl's name, but
Bella Ramsey.
Bella Ramsey. She's very talented. She's incredible.
Daughter of Gordon Ramsay.
Dude, I wish.
Hell's Kitchen fame.
I wish. That'd be so.
Is she
funny.
really?
No, I don't know.
No, true.
Oh, you were spouting facts over here, Gary. I'm like, is this a
never
thing?
in my life have I said anything true to anyone ever.
You said it so confidently. I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that I didn't know about. And now I feel like a fool. Gary, congratulations. I'm ugly and strike fear into people, and I'm a fool. Thanks, guys. You're my friends.
Hey, you know, we're just trying to help you have realistic expectations in life. But yeah, no, Bella Ramsey, not the daughter.
Our level, dude, and just punching you down to our level.
We're bringing you down with us, Drew.
You're an ugly fool like the rest of us.
So, I'll say this: the first episode, the premiere, I thought the whole intro and background, which I've played the game. I've actually played The Last of Us all the way through a couple times. And I was still gobsmacked by the intro to the show. Like the whole prologue section that takes up half the first episode I thought was incredible. And then it kind of slowed down for me as we were doing some world building, but I still really liked it. And I thought that Bella Ramsey, whenever it would cut to her, was electric and would kind of light up the screen for me again. Then we see the second episode, which really gets into the atmosphere of this world, and I think it's worth noting the second episode was directed by Neil Druckmann, who is the creator and the guy that works at Naughty Dog and the big guy behind the game, and he got to direct this TV episode.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, perfect episode for him to direct, especially because it followed the game very closely, events of the game, and but still was interesting and atmospheric, and it worked so well in a transition to a TV show, and I loved it. I liked it even more than the premiere, even though it's like not that much happened in it. You really get introduced to the clickers and things like that, but man, I thought it was great. Then episode 3, I was just absolutely gobsmacked by it.
Did you guys cry? I cried.
I did.
I cried. Oh.
I'm with you, Gary. I just like it's been a while. Every now and then a show will come out and it'll have like that episode that people refer to.
We are back.
A blank episode. Like Game of Thrones had a few of these. You've got The Red Wedding.
Yeah.
Things like that. But this is going to be, whenever people are like, oh, the Bill and Frank episode, everybody's going to know what you're talking about.
Everyone's talking about it. Yeah. Sorry, our the Discord for some reason just shut down, so like I had to pop out back in. But
I can edit this out. But will Gary and my audio still capture during that, or will it not?
No, because I was gone.
Okay, so I'll run it back for a second. Yeah. Technical difficulty
at 101.
At 101. Okay. Well, I'll just talk about those first 3 episodes again, or I guess what was I talking about when
you were talking about the second episode being directed by the Naughty Dog guy?
Okay, perfect. So, second episode was just super atmospheric. I thought it was a great introduction for, especially for people who haven't played the game. It's like, if you want to know what the game is like, watch the second episode of the show, because it really gets that feel perfectly. And then just the third episode, I was absolutely gobsmacked.
My God. That may be the best episode of TV of all time.
Possibly one of the greatest episodes of television ever made. Yeah, it was so emotional. Yeah, I cried. It was so touching. It was so human. And it was only those things. You know what I mean? It never dipped outside of that. It was just a great human story. Fantastic episode.
It was just like this short film within the series that could almost be lifted straight out of the series and put on any screen in front of anyone and be just an amazing story. You almost need no background or any information what's going on in the world. It's just absolutely directed, beautiful, fantastic performances. Great all the way through, man. I don't know what this means for Nick Offerman's character in the future, but I know that with the flash forward, flash backwards narrative devices, he may have more parts throughout this series.
Exactly.
But absolutely, I think everyone who watched that is a Nick Offerman fan for the rest of their life.
I mean, if he doesn't win an award, I would be shocked.
If you didn't already love him from Parks and Rec, then now you love him from The Last of Us. I think he is just fucking amazing. What an absolutely stunning performance.
I don't want to downplay, and I completely agree with you. He is incredible, but I don't want to downplay Murray Bartlett, who I thought was also incredible in this, which he is somebody that popped on my radar in the first season of The White Lotus. He's really, really great in it, and
he is.
And I thought he was incredible as well. But yeah, this is really like the Nick Offerman showcase of what he's for people that just think of Ron Swanson when they see him. Like, this really shows the depth that he has as an actor. And yeah, I was truly blown away. And I think we've already talked about a little bit of stuff at this point, but I think we can say full spoilers.
Full spoilers going ahead. I'll put up the sign.
But I want to just note, because having played the game, this is where the show starts to differ from the game, which is great. Similar to how I know The Walking Dead is a show that took different paths from the comics to keep the show fresh. Obviously, The Last of Us is going to do that as well, because in the Last of Us game, you meet Bill in the game, and you know from meeting him, and the signs and everything are there, that Frank has died, and Bill is really dealing with it and struggling with it in the game. He's like kind of a broken man because his love has passed, but a lot of it is told through like collectibles and things. That game does a great job of putting the story together through the environment. You kind of find out things and it's not outright told to you. So I'm going into the show knowing who Bill is to an extent. I mean, he's a super small side character in a video game, right? Like, not like he's a huge part of that first game, but he is a character you meet. But kind of knowing that he's a guy Joel comes across and he has a lover that's died. And so for this show to dive into these two characters and the relationship that they had, but then also how they live out their days and I don't know. I was blown away. I absolutely cried in it. And I told my wife watched the first episode of The Last of Us with me, and she actually thought it was pretty good, but she's just not like a whole, into all the zombie stuff. And she was like, it was pretty good, but you can watch that. And I told her after the third episode that it made me cry. And she's like, the zombie show made you cry? I'm like, yes,
oh, yeah.
It absolutely made me cry. And I made sure to note to her that the episode that made me cry did not have a single zombie or clicker or anything in it. I don't believe
it had one.
Oh, it did have
that tripped a tripwire.
You're right.
But that was it.
But not a prominent part of the episode.
Not at all. Not even remotely. Yeah.
So, while I liked the first two episodes a whole lot, the third episode, we're 3 episodes in the show, and I'm like, best show of 2023? Like, is it going to be up there? I feel like
it's definitely going to be up there. I mean, like we said, one of the best episodes of TV ever.
It was about this time last year when Peacemaker came out, and I said, is this the best superhero thing of 2022? and it was. So, is this the best show of 2023? Did HBO do it again? Probably.
Probably.
I mean, probably, yeah. And will they continue to do it with more and more, more and more frequently? That's the weird question, because are they figuring out a formula? Maybe. It's starting to look like it.
It always these things always go better. These things always go better when the companies that are funding it kind of let the creative people they're hiring do stuff. You know what I mean? And pull back a bit. And I think that it shows. I feel like they probably trusted the creators a lot to do this show right, and it shows. Doesn't seem to be a lot of this is the third episode. We need a zombie scene. It seems like they're kind of given leeway
to the source material any more originally than having the studio's director come in and direct an episode.
That's crazy to me. That's something that doesn't really happen.
Top tier fan service, that's like having the comic book writer come in and direct, an episode of a Spider-Man because he wrote a good Spider-Man arc. That's crazy. It's totally awesome. I love that. That's great for him. And it was a great episode, and I would have never guessed that it wasn't all cohesively done by one director.
Yeah.
He's Neil Druckmann, if you even just looking at his Wikipedia page, he's an Israeli-American writer, creative director, designer, and programmer who's been co-president of Naughty Dog since 2020. So the fact that you can be co-president of a video game studio, creative director, I mean, obviously he's got a creative mind, but the fact that you can go from that and then go direct an episode of a TV show and do it extremely well is super impressive. Although, the way that these games are made now on sound stages and actors and mocap suits, it's probably not all that different these days.
That's fair.
If you watch behind the scenes videos of them making The Last of Us and executing the cutscenes and such, it's almost like, it's like a mocap, like James Cameron directing Avatar. It's actors in mocap suits.
There are certainly video games that are more or less of a cinematic experience than others, and The Last of Us is a very cinematic experience and a great deep storytelling video game. So I'm not at all surprised that it translates so well into the screen. Where something like Mario is a little bit more questionable.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get into it. So the first episode, you talked about the opening sequence being a lot like the game. I played a little bit of the game, but at the time I had to use the PlayStation app on my PC. It doesn't work that great. I didn't really like it, so I only played a little bit. I got to the end of the second episode. That's when I stopped playing. That intro scene, I was like, how are they going to translate that? They translated it by making the greatest outbreak scene in any zombie media ever. It was, even knowing what was going to happen, it was nuts. It was heart-wrenching.
I don't think it was the greatest outbreak scene of any media ever. Let me just put an asterisk in there.
Which one are you going to say?
It was World War Z.
That was a good one. You're not wrong. World War Z had a lot of really good moments. They had a lot of big moments. You're not wrong. It's all right. So it's one of them, but it's definitely fantastic. It definitely they really captured the panic. They captured the it happening at home feel, where your neighbors are coming after you. They let you get to know the neighborhood just well enough to where you're you kind of cringe when that dude they left that woman in the street or whatever, and that dude went to check on her and then got eaten. I was like, oh man, that was crazy. The plane crash was crazy.
Because, we know, right, as the viewer, that this is a zombie outbreak, but the neighbors don't know, so they just saw another neighbor hit their old lady neighbor with a car, and they're like, oh shit, of course they go run down and check.
And they were like, you're a dick, and then they get eaten.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. That's exactly what would happen. I love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's why if your neighbor gets hit with the car, you just fucking keep your ass inside and mind your own business.
Mind your own business.
It's just so funny because obviously the whole video games into movies or television adaptations has always been a struggle, and it's always been this ongoing conversation. Whenever there's, Detective Pikachu or Sonic the Hedgehog movie or whatever it's going to be, there's always is this finally going to be a good video game adaptation, and there have been some to varying degrees. But now we have The Last of Us, which after 3 Double Dragon. After 3 episodes, it's like not only is this probably already the best video game to screen adaptation that there's been, it's also a damn good zombie type story in general.
Top tier.
And then, y'all mentioned the Super Mario animated movie from Illumination coming out later this year, but like I have high hopes for that too. Like I think it's going to be definitely successful, but I think it's going to be good or charming in its own way.
I think it's
So
going
it might
to be
be just
fun.
Yeah.
Fun with all capital letters, probably. Not even a capital F. Just fun, F-U-N, all the way, man. Yeah, I think Mario's going to be a lot of fun. I was more just referring to Mario not being the most cinematic of games.
Fair.
You have to take some liberties when you try to make that into a movie.
But it's crazy to be a month into the year, and I'm like, man, this is 2023 going to be the best year for video game to big screen adaptations? Like, it feels like it already.
Probably. It's a pretty low bar.
Exactly. That's the thing. It's not like that's
Yeah.
the most prestigious title at this point, considering the competition, but it's still pretty cool. And Sony has
Obviously.
put together their production studio. This is something they want to do, and they're going to be doing stuff with God of War and other products. And if they all turn out as good as this, then yeah, let's bring it on, Sony.
Obviously, we're
Having an
like Gary said,
interesting-
we're not counting Double Dragon. Double Dragon's the height.
I'm having an interesting thought, but it's not fully formed yet. It's
You're
something
more than
to do-
welcome to talk through it.
It's
I'm here
something
for it.
to do with how making video game movies has been bad, but is getting better. But making movies from books has always been a toss of the coin. I think anytime you make a movie from a book, it's going to be hard to try to please the audience, and you almost have a new target audience. But when you're working from a video game as your source material into a movie, adapting it's almost easier. You have a visual reference, you have some story reference, and you're playing to the same fans. You're not trying to gain new fans per
Yeah.
se.
I mean, video games and
I think
movies.
there's something interesting there that they're starting to figure out how to really nail this in a way that they were never able to nail books.
I mean, video games and movies are a lot closer than movies and books, I would say. Books, you get a lot of this other context. You get a lot of internal monologue. You get a lot of how characters feel. You get to see when they notice things in a different way. Like, oh, he
They're
noticed.
certainly
Yeah.
both a visual medium. So
Yeah.
for sure you have that as a reference, which definitely helps you go the extra mile. You know, you can imagine the character the same way a lot easier when you already have a visual reference.
That's true. Yeah, that's the other thing about books. Like, as soon as they explain a character, you make an image in your brain, and that's what it looks like. And if it looks like anything else, you're going to kind of be thrown off a bit. And yeah, you're not wrong.
It's tough because, like you said, video games are a visual medium, so you have something to see, which means that if you just make a straight adaptation without making any changes, it's kind of like, what's the point? Because there already was a visual style of this, so you want to change
Yeah.
it. But also, people get attached to those games, so if you change it too much, you're going to upset the fans. But books are similar because I feel like books fans are more lenient if you just make a straight adaptation of a book, because it's just, everybody might have a different vision in their head, so seeing it physically and following along with the book can be pleasing, whereas like something like Harry Potter, from book to screen, if you change too much of it, people are going to be really mad. Or maybe like Lord of the Rings or something like that, things that creative artists want to take liberties with. I don't know. It's all very like muddy territory, and I guess at the end of the day, it's like, as long as it's good, people are happy. Like, you can change The Last of Us from the game as much as you want if it's good, and so far the changes that they made have been really good. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Like I said, I'm having a thought. It's just not quite complete yet. It's something
Yeah.
I kind of I need to like put a flag in, because we're right sort of in the middle of, video game movies have been coming out our whole lives, but they've ranged in quality, mostly bad.
They've been almost all.
Mostly from bad to worse. So it's just cool. I think we're kind of in this renaissance now where people are getting it. It's about to happen. which for better or worse, we're about to get a ton of video game movies. I would think we'll probably see a Grand Theft Auto movie by the next 10 years. It's neat. I think it's neat. I think I like this. I think it's a cool time to see this happen.
For sure. Yeah.
It's interesting too because The Last of Us, the first game, was profitable. It reviewed well. It was a commercial success. But in a way, it's like I don't know how attached people are. Maybe I'm wrong. Are to Joel and Ellie from the game, so you can see them go a few different ways in the show. But I'm kind of backtracking on as I say that because The Last of Us Part 2 video game, major spoilers ahead for The Last of Us Part 2 video game, and potentially for The Last of Us TV show. So I'm throwing up major spoilers here. Gary, are you cool with hearing? John doesn't want to hear. John's taking off his headset.
He doesn't. He wants to experience the story. I know.
I gotta take my headphones off.
I've read what happens.
Keep them off for a second.
Because I was interested whenever there was the lash out against the voice actor, or the voice actress. I was like, what in the hell is going on here? So I had to read into it to understand.
So Joel, in the Last of Us Part 2 game, gets pretty brutally murdered, straight up. I mean, he dies, and you play as Ellie in that game, and it becomes Ellie's story. And fans of the game playing it were like taken aback that happened, and were mad about it. And I was mad about it when I played the game, but the storytelling was done so well that it's like being mad was the response it was supposed to elicit. So it's like,
yeah, it's a great storytelling device. It wasn't supposed to make you feel warm and cozy.
Right.
It was supposed to make you feel rage and empowered to finish and to have a new focus and a new goal and a new villain. It's from what I understand, it was a beautiful storytelling device and something to really look forward to. I would guess they would try to at least stretch that out to 5 seasons before they do that with HBO. If you kill Pedro Pascal by the end of season 1, I think you're setting yourself up for failure.
All right, I'm gonna give Jahan the thumbs up.
Yeah, I'm back. What's up, dog?
We won't touch on that anymore. But I guess I don't know. It's interesting because like moving on to other Sony properties, right? Like God of War, or Kratos is a cool character for a game because he's big and strong and has cool weapons, and so you feel powerful as him. But I don't know if I have like an emotional attachment to Kratos, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I feel like you could make a God of War show based on the Sony video game, but go any route you want to with it, because I'm not going to be like offended that your on-screen version of Kratos isn't exactly the same as the video game version that I played. Does that make sense? I don't know.
My worry with that show would be that they would try to give it too much depth. It's literally called God of War.
No.
It took 3 or 4 games to get Kratos to where he was a character that had depth and you started to feel for him. So
Right.
This show should start off with just monster bashing for a few seasons. If it starts off as this deep emotional thing, I think it'll be boring. I don't think that every story needs to be as deep as The Last of Us or have as much intrigue as Game of Thrones.
See, I think...
But if you're going to make an action show, make it action-y.
That's fair. So I actually finally played some God of War for the first time. So the only God of War game I'm familiar with, like I've seen the other ones and I know what they were kind of like, but the one for PlayStation 4, I guess, just God of War. Is it God of War or God of War
version?
Yeah, the one where he has
God
the
of
son.
Yeah, that's God of War. And Ragnarok is the sequel that just came out end of last year. But yeah.
And I feel like that one has some pretty good, like that character I would watch a show about. You know what I mean? And I think watching him with his son would make for a better show.
Well, and with that HBO
Gary's point-
storytelling approach, they could do both, right? They could flash back and forth
That's fair.
to ancient Greece with him fighting
Yes.
monsters, and then flash back to up north in the cold with his son. So
That-
they could use that same storytelling device.
Be sick.
The original God of War game, the PS2 one, all Kratos was he was essentially tricked by Ares, the god of war, into murdering his own wife and child, and so he's just a rage-fueled monster who wants to kill Ares, the god of war, and will tear through any god, whatever, in order to do that. Spoiler alert for the first God of War game that came out, over almost 20 years ago.
You know how
he
many
kills
times
Ares
I've
at the beginning of kills Ares
killing
at
their wife and child. That's like such a classic trick, bro.
He kills Ares at the end of the first game, becomes the god of war, and then the second game is all about him trying to kill Zeus. And that's it. Kratos is just like a rage-fueled monster with blades attached to chains around his wrists who kills everything. And then, the 2018 was like continued the story, but also rebooted at the same time and made Kratos this way more layered character. And that, as Jahan said, will translate way better to I think to like a show or some sort of other medium. So I'll be interested to see how they do that. I know we're getting going down kind of the rabbit hole away from The Last of Us.
We poked.
It's all related.
It is all related. It's a good topic conversation. I feel like we should do a big video game media translation episode or something, maybe.
Let's do it. Let's go for another hour on this episode, and let's just get into it. Just joking.
But so that was the first episode. Are you good with the first episode, Gary? Or were you going to say something about it?
No, okay. You're good.
Yeah, so the second episode, you said this is the one directed by the game's creator, the CEO of Naughty Dog or whatever. Really cool. That was one of the cooler post-apocalyptic settings that I've seen. Like, the way the buildings are falling over, I like how they climb into them. It looked good. It looked real. You finally get some clicker action. They were great. They looked good.
Practical effects that looked incredible.
Yes.
They looked just like the game, but they looked terrifying because it was all real. It was all makeup and prosthetics, and it looked incredible.
It looked great.
If you're an aspiring director, use practical effects. That's my advice to you.
They've proven, because, back in the day when, CGI first started coming up and stuff like that, there was an argument, it was this stuff looks cool, blah, blah, blah. But, the test of time has proven that practical effects are the only thing that hold up. No matter how good your CGI is, eventually it's going to look like dog crap.
It's going to look weird. Eventually it's going to look weird.
You got to do practical effects.
They did add some cool little additions here that I don't believe are in the game, like how the fungus and kind of is like hive mind can communicate with the infected, and something that happens in point A can affect the zombies at point B and kind of alert them to you. I believe that's all new for the show, and it works. That's a good, I think, world building thing to have in this, in the stakes of the show. So I find that
the
to be
colony
cool.
can detect you. If you get detected by one, you're getting affected by everything.
Right.
I like that as well.
Like these almost little parasitic looking, fibers of fungus that communicates underground and what, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting addition.
I love mushrooms as a bad guy.
Yep.
That's
mushrooms
something.
Are scary.
See, and also,
Gross.
that was really cool in how they opened that episode with the flashback. Was it this episode, the second one, where they flash back to Malaysia or wherever?
Yes, yes, it was.
That was really cool. I really like the back channel. I like how they're doing the jumps back and forth to tell this story, and that was really cool. How she was like, "Well, go bomb all those people now, or I'm gonna go home and be with my family because the world's gonna end." That's. I mean, you're definitely saying something there, you know what I mean? And she was right, so.
After that second episode, I was like, okay, so this is going to be the formula for the show. Is every episode's going to open up with some sort of flashback to whether it's new or existing characters, and then we'll cut back to the present. And then episode 3 immediately swerved on that because you start in the present, and then the rest of the episode's a flashback. So it's just, I don't know, it keeps you on your toes.
It does.
Bless up for episode 3. I know we already mentioned it, but bless up for episode 3. It's for the children. That's the best episode.
Best episode. I'm so glad you guys liked it too. Yeah, it was a good episode. There's a lot of obvious stuff going on online where people are hating on it for obvious reasons, and it's just dumb. It's dumb. Two people in love,
silly.
and it's an incredibly beautiful and moving story, and like just everyone needs to grow the fuck up. That's what I mean.
I watch a lot of movies, and
Yeah.
I watch a lot of love stories, and I watch a lot of whatever, and there are parts that are supposed to make you cry that make me roll my eyes, and there's a lot of movies that should make me cry and I don't tear up, and this one episode of TV made me emotional. It was so well done. It was so good.
Also knew for a fact when Nick Offerman's character got shot that he was going to die. But then he didn't. They did the future cut forward, and then of course he's pushing his husband in the wheelchair, and I was like, oh shit, they caught me with a curveball, bro.
Yeah.
A total curveball for me, because I didn't play the game right, so I didn't know that the husband was going to be dying of cancer, which, I don't know, we can just identify it these days, right? You could just see it in somebody and be like, oh crap, that's cancer. He didn't have a doctor to diagnose him. We all knew what it was and what he was dying from and how horrible, it was. And then the Shakespearean ending, even with them saying this is not a Shakespearean ending, it was just perfect. The absolute beautiful love story ending.
And total shout out to Bill, Nick Offerman's character, for getting just the best hand dealt in a apocalypse infection scenario, with having his cool fallout shelter, being in this small town that gets evacuated, being able to have the whole town to himself, having a hardware store that's fully stocked that he can just wall off the whole place. Dude just gets props for having the best end of world scenario possible.
You could tell he was a prepper before too, so he was probably 60% prepared. And then you're right, he just had he had set that town up in such a fantastic way. It was cool. The town was cool.
It was awesome.
I could have seen more of the town, because the fact that there were the intruders and he was already outside with the gun makes me think that town probably had tunnels and he could probably sneak around and pop up behind people. I could have watched Nick Offerman Doomsday Prep all day. Looking forward to possibly seeing more of the character in flashbacks.
Yeah.
It's so true, though, because the different stores that Frank, Murray Bartlett's character, was talking about wanting to fix up and such, in addition to showing some love to their own house. I'm like, I want to see that. I want to see the liquor store or the antique store or the boutique or whatever store you're fixing up. I want to see it. I want to be part of this world. Y'all are cool. I want to live in your little town with y'all.
Yeah, I wanted to
I
live
don't
in
care
their
if there's
little town
zombies
too,
outside.
man. Hell yeah.
But yeah,
those are the neighbors you want.
You kind of touched on something that, we've talked about the flashbacks. Yeah, I thought, so after the second episode, what's her name? Tessa? The female character?
Yes.
Tess, yeah. After Tess, spoiler alert, after Tess dies, just like she does in the game, well, not just like, but pretty similar to, I thought that was it. I thought we'd never see her again. I thought that actress got her check and went home. But, the next episode, we're seeing her in flashbacks. And so, yeah, that does bring up a good point that we'll probably see them flashback to Bill in the future. And it's just interesting that they're doing it that way. And I like it a lot. So,
Also worth noting, I thought this was really cool, just a little piece of trivia. Merle Dandridge is the actress who played Marlene in the first episode. She's the one that's the head of the Fireflies and kind of sets up Joel and Tess with Ellie and sets them on the mission to escort Ellie. The actress that played Marlene in the show is the same actress that played Marlene in the video game, and I thought that was really neat.
that is cool. That is very cool.
There are other actors from the game that play different characters in the show, so that's something to look out to.
See, man, that's just it's just such a different feel when the people that created the subject matter are directly interlocked with it, because it's not some Hollywood producer grabbing an IP and just running it in the ground for a quick buck. It's actually, you know what I mean? It's refreshing.
Yeah, the people who made it are still involved with it. They helped make it the first time, they helped making it the second time, even in different roles. It's nice to see. It's, not only is it fan service, but it's almost product service, because they're going to want to treat that product with love the second time around as well.
Awesome. Well, I think that's our Last of Us discussion. I've been really excited to dig into it with y'all, and it was definitely worth the discussion because we got to just ooze positiveness about this positivity about the show. And
3 great episodes. What an absolutely great show. I would be surprised if it didn't continue being great through the first season at least.
I agree. Before we sign off of this episode, which is episode 73, Fresh Out the Podcast, I don't think I said that up top. Do y'all have any notes that you want to touch on before we wrap everything up?
Yes, one of mine is time sensitive because it comes out tomorrow if you're listening to this on the day of release. If you're listening to it live, it comes out in 2 days. Hot Wheels is coming to Game Pass. It's a racing game that came out on Xbox last year or the year before, and I think it won Racing Game of the Year. It just looks like a blast. It's set in, like, on Hot Wheels tracks, but in a real-world environment, so you're inside of, like, giant studio rooms and stuff, so you can tell that you're a little tiny race car just from perspectives. I think that's a lot of fun. I think there's some nostalgia to that for me. I love racing games. They also have like boosters on the track, and I think weapon upgrades in sort of a Mario Kart type of way, but maybe not weapon upgrades. Don't quote me on that. Looking forward to it. Coming out on Game Pass like right now-ish, basically. Get ready to play that.
I also want to play that one.
The other thing I have is the Royal Rumble happened last weekend. I tuned into that. It was a great time, great storytelling. Looking forward to WrestleMania. I might do little wrestling blips every now and then. I love how they've treated the Bloodline, Roman Reigns storyline and what that's done for Sami Zayn's already great career. Some really good storytelling devices there with Sami Zayn. A lot of really funny stuff. And then some treachery.
It was a good Rumble. It was a really good Rumble. I feel like even the stuff that was predictable was still executed well. So
there was some stuff that let me down. Like Braun Strowman came out and almost came out, and they were both in the ring for like maybe a combined 3 minutes, and they both went out one after the other. I'd like to see, the Rumble is a giant. That's a giant's time of the year. If you're a giant and you're a wrestler, the Rumble is when you get to do the giant thing. The rest of the year, you have to let people win every now and then and go back and forth. But they didn't let either of the Giants do the Giant thing, so I was let down there. But again, Logan Paul, my new favorite not wrestler, who's a wrestler, he came back without destroyed legs this time. And him and Ricochet jumped and collided each other in the air. I also love Ricochet. There was just this huge collision body to body that was great. Some really good spots, man. Fun Rumble. Rhea Ripley won the Women's Rumble, which was great. She's fantastic. She'll be up against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. And then on the other side of that, the Men's Rumble, Cody Rhodes won, and everybody wanted that to happen, and he had like 8 weeks of promos that were saying it was going to happen, and then it happened. So it was not surprising and not really very interesting and not great storytelling. And then now he'll go to WrestleMania and beat Roman Reigns' 900-day championship streak, and it also won't be surprising or probably that entertaining. That's my wrestling wrap up.
Yeah, Rhea Ripley is the first woman to ever win the Women's Rumble from the first position, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, because they've only been doing the Women's Rumble for a few... maybe it's been like 5 years now or so that they've been doing a Women's Rumble.
It's funny because they used to do a Women's Rumble in the early 90s, but they stopped at some point and then brought it back.
Yeah, and so, she would have been the first one to enter number one and to win it. I didn't even realize that. That's cool, though.
Yeah, absolutely. So that wraps up episode 73, Fresh Out the Podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening and being a part of our three-way friendship here. We appreciate you. Nice face gig. We appreciate you being here for it. And don't forget to hit us up on Twitter. My name's Johananon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG. Don't forget you can tune in and watch us recording. Then you get to see that Jahan's not wearing a shirt. And you can just do this. Just put your little fingers together and look like you're playing with his nipples on the screen. But you can't do that if you're just listening to the podcast.
Sure.
You can find us at twitch.tv/Johananon. That's where we also do Fresh Out the Box. That's where Jahan and I tell original stories. We're trying to have fun with friends, playing new games, doing things all the time. So you should check us out, playing games that are not Dungeons and Dragons, but are sort of like Dungeons and Dragons because we use dice and tell stories. That's Fresh Out the Box. We have a YouTube that's Fresh Out the Box TTRPG and a Facebook and all that other stuff. So find us. You can find me at Casualty CDG. Don't forget to rate this show. You can rate us on Spotify or Apple TV. Rate the podcast, please. Give us a little 5 stars, a little thumbs up. Whatever your version of this is the best podcast in the world is. And thank you so much. We look forward to bringing you more content next week.
I'm Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter. And yeah, I think y'all summed it up great. So I will just say what Jahan usually says, which is stay fresh.
Stay fresh, everybody. We'll see you.
I'm fresh out the box. I'm fresh out the box. fresh out the box.
I can't do that song. It's copywritten. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fresh Out the Podcast. I am Jehananan, the infringer of copyrights.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Box, and this podcast, which is Fresh Out the Podcast, it's a brand new show. This is episode 70, brand new one, episode 74. This is
74.
episode
You got it. You got there.
Part 1, episode 74, chapter 1.
You got there. I'm proud of you. You made it. You did it. Good job, Gary. I am the professional media and movie mastermind, the Funhouse, Drew Munhausen, and we've got lots of fun stuff to talk about today. It's going to be all the cool stuff we've been watching and enjoying, which, Jahan, we were talking just before this episode started about just how far back that goes, because we did our most anticipated of 2023, and before that was our top fives of 2022, and we've had a few weeks where we didn't record due to life, and so the last time we really had just kind of a free-for-all episode was back in mid-December when Avatar: The Way of Water came out. So I'm excited to talk about all the best stuff that we've been checking out since that time. But I did, if you all will indulge me here just a little bit, because I do want to, I always have to have my little Oscar corner where I go off about it, because I haven't had a chance on the show to really
we know. We're ready for it.
The Oscar nominations and everything that's happened there.
I wish we had an animation and a little theme song for your Oscar roundup where you popped out of a little trash can like Oscar the Grouch.
It's Drew's Oscar Roundup. I like the Oscars. Is that good?
I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great.
Gary, I'm assuming you've been closely following the Oscar race and that you could list all the Best Picture nominees without looking at the list.
Yeah, of course. The same way, yes.
I'm teasing. I'll go through the Best Picture list really quick. I'm not going to go into every category because we just don't have time for that. We've got enough to talk about. But I did want to just talk about the Best Picture noms, which are interesting. Not a whole... A lot of them are as expected, and then a few of the last spots were taken in an interesting direction. But the nominees for Best Picture
Matrix 4, Homeward Bound,
Go on. I want to see what else you pull here.
The Whale, and since it's actually Brendan Fraser's year, The First Mummy, not The Mummy 2, though. And so that's actually going to give Brendan Fraser, that's going to give him 2/5 of a chance to win. So he's going in strong. He's the lead here. And this is one of the first years they've ever brought back movies from the past, which is exciting. They've tried to get more viewership over the years by adding more movies to categories, and now they're just... It's a no-holds-barred, basically. This is the hardcore match of the Oscars this year. Anything goes. I expect to see Titanic, come out of nowhere. This is a good year. If you're gonna watch one, this is the one to watch.
Boy, this should be just a sideshow that we do. That's like Gary talking about the Oscars every week, but just making it all up as he goes along, and it's movies from all different years and genres that just don't make sense. I'm here for it. Best Picture nominees: All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once,
Boom!
The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick.
Okay. Tar is from the Jurassic period. All That's Quiet on the Western Front is from the 1940s. Elvis is from the 50s. So just to my point, they're pulling in movies just from any decade at this point. All the way back to prehistoric times with Tar.
There's also Triangle of Sadness and Women Talking. And so that rounds out the 10 nominees this year. Yes, there is a new adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front. It was a famous movie from a long time ago. There have been multiple adaptations of it, but this was actually a German adaptation, and I actually haven't watched it yet, but apparently it's pretty good.
I prefer the sequel, Loud as Hell on the Eastern Front.
Yeah, dude, that one bangs. That one really... That one
Non-stop thrills.
The surprises there, All Quiet on the Western Front kind of started making waves a few weeks before the Oscar nominations closed, so the Oscar voting. So that kind of had like a last minute wave, and it made it into Best Picture. Triangle of Sadness and Women Talking were the other two spots that made it in over some other movies like Babylon, and She Said, a few others that were talked about but didn't make it here. The rest of them were all pretty expected. Avatar, Banshees, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun. All were to be expected. No surprises there. I think that right now the race is still coming down to Banshees, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and The Fabelmans to really win this award and take it home this year. Right now, I feel like Everything Everywhere All at Once has a lot of steam behind it, and it's a big, it's a commercially successful movie, has a lot of fans. I think that people will tune into the Oscars just to see this movie, because the people who are fans of this movie are really big fans. And Ke Huy Quan is more than likely going to win the supporting actor Oscar for this movie. So, yeah, I think that it'll have a pretty big presence at the awards. The thing that I wanted to talk about
is Triangle of Sadness about a symphonic percussionist who has a really depressed life. All they do is go into work and ding a triangle.
I see where you're going with that. That's funny.
It's not. I did speak about that movie a few weeks ago. I actually saw that one back at Fantastic Fest. And I remember Jahan was so flabbergasted just because the name Triangle of Sadness back then when I talked about it. But it's kind of a...
Oh, this is the one where they are on a boat and...
It's going fast and...
No. They wind up right in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle, then they break up and it's very sad.
No, still wrong, but I do appreciate the effort. It's a satire on the rich and wealthy, and it does involve a boat trip that does not go where they'd like it to, and there's a lot of vomit, a lot of yucky poo-poo vomit that happens midway through this movie that has been seen in a lot of the trailers and posters and things. So, yeah. I think that's what it was, actually, when I spoke about it a few months ago. Jahan was looking up posters to show while I was talking about it, and the first poster that came up was somebody projectile vomiting on the poster. I think that's what sparked the conversation.
I was pretty surprised. Yucky poo-poo vomit.
Yucky poo-poo vomit. There is some interesting drama surrounding the nominations this year, specifically in the Best Actress race. And it is because of a particular nomination. There's a movie here. Have either of you heard of a little movie called To Leslie?
No, I have not.
Exactly. Nobody has. Nobody's heard of this movie because nobody's seen this movie. It got a limited release back, I think, around October. It made, give or take, about $30,000 at the box office total, which is nothing. Made by a super small studio, starring Andrea Riseborough. I believe, I have not seen this film yet. I believe she plays a former lottery winner who is, turned alcoholic, has used all the money, and she's just washed up in a really bad spot. This nomination, so Andrea Riseborough was nominated for Best Actress in a Leading Role for this part in the movie To Leslie, which has not been on the campaign trail at all. It has not been part of any awards coverage in the months leading up to this. It was pretty much a non-factor. And a few weeks, or not even, a week or so before the nominations closed, the director and his wife started kind of a grassroots campaign around this, and they have a lot of friends in the actor branch. And so they started getting people on board, and folks like Edward Norton and Gwyneth Paltrow and many more started tweeting about this movie to Leslie and saying how great it was and how great her performance was. And it kind of all appeared out of nowhere. Like one day on Twitter, all of a sudden there were all these actors tweeting about this movie that nobody had heard of before. And apparently it made waves enough within this week that then all of a sudden Andrea Riseborough lands a nomination here. The thing that's interesting is that the Academy has very strict rules about campaigning and what's allowed and what's not and how many emails or things can be sent, and that it actually caused them to launch an investigation into the campaign and this film and everything. I don't think that there's any action that's going to be taken, but it kind of ruffled a lot of feathers, especially because it was really thought that this spot would go to someone like Viola Davis for The Woman King. And instead the spot was taken, and so there's no actresses of color in this category this year, and what that means for the industry and things like that. So it's kind of like caused a lot of drama, but it's made this whole interesting wave and look into the campaigning behind the Oscars and what's allowed and what's not. And so a little bit of controversy behind an awards race that otherwise can be a little bit dull until the actual show itself.
No. It's still dull.
Oh, come on.
That's all they have to talk about. That's like they're doing a campaign investigation because these people might not have sent enough emails. That's dull as fuck, son.
Quite irregular. Harumph.
No, they're just not gonna. They're not gonna live up to last year's moment. That was not at all dull.
Oh boy,
this is very dull by comparison.
What?
No, John. No, we're not doing. No. Okay, I'm moving on. I'm moving on. Moving on into the bulk of this podcast episode, which is for us to talk about what we've been watching and what we've been enjoying recently. And I will just take it upon myself now to kick that off by talking about a little M. Night Shyamalan film called Knock at the Cabin that came out last week. If you're listening to this audio on the weekend that it released. And
I wanted to see that. Yay or nay?
I'm giving it a yay.
Okay. I like that.
It's not necessarily top tier Shyamalan, but it's definitely a lot better than his bad stuff. I actually really enjoyed it. And kind of going back to our anticipated list, it's like M. Night Shyamalan, say what you will about his twists and what he's known for and all that stuff. He knows where to put a camera and how to make things look interesting. And this movie is filmed so well. Like, it's all takes place in this super claustrophobic cabin. There's a lot of super close-up shots of people's faces. A lot of close-up on Batista's face. And the tension and atmosphere of it is worth going to see. Again, this is based off of a book, so this is not an M. Night Shyamalan original, but it is his telling of this, his adaptation of this, and I enjoyed it. I don't want to say much because I think that if you can go into it knowing as little as possible, I hadn't read the book, I didn't know what to expect, but it's pretty cut and dry. Like it's not. Doesn't leave much to the imagination, but it's really well done. Dave Bautista's wonderful in it. I mean, we all know he's been great. We've sung his praises on this show many times before. This only reinforces it. Just dude has so much range. He's so good. He's so good in this, and I really enjoyed it. I'd say it's like a solid 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5 maybe. I liked it. I liked it a lot.
That's good enough for me to go see a Batista movie.
Yeah, so I would say I certify it fresh. I will be interested to hear y'all's thoughts. It's not twisty like M. Night Shyamalan stuff. but it's just well done. I just like how where he puts the camera, his views on things. He's good. He does have his traditional cameo in the movie. I won't spoil that because he does that in every film. But it made me laugh out loud. So yeah, that's Knock at the Cabin.
I do. Yeah, I do want to see that one. Yeah.
Do y'all have any movies that you've been watching?
I've seen 3 of note. All of them have been talked about before a little bit. So one of the cool things I did recently, the other weekend, me and Jenny went to see the extended version of Return of the King, Lord of the Rings, at Alamo Drafthouse in a special showing. And you know what?
Nice.
That movie holds up and is dope and still, like, teared me up in a few spots, man. It was good times, and I love Alamo Drafthouse. I enjoy their food. Great experience. Had a great time. But
Was it a
more...
pretty full theater? Like, they have a good crowd for it?
Oh, yeah, it was packed.
That's awesome.
It was, like, full. Like, the whole thing was full. It pretty much always is when they do their Lord of the Rings show. And they did all 3 movies, but we were unable to get tickets to any of the other ones. Because I think my favorite is actually Fellowship. I think the first one has it all. And
Fellowship's my favorite.
And then the second one has one of the greatest siege of all time. And then the third one, I always... Like, honestly, like, I undersell it a little bit, because, like, after watching it again, man, it has some great moments. It's a fantastic movie as well.
Fellowship's my favorite, and I think that its extended version, I feel like the extended clips or the added clips are the most quality of the other extended versions too.
I haven't
love Return of the King a lot.
I haven't seen any of those movies normal version in so long. I only watch the extended. I watch them all the time because that's my fandom right there. The other thing that's a little more on topic, I finally saw Everything Everywhere All at Once. I don't know why I put it on. I just never got around to it. I don't know. That movie's great. That movie's incredible. Visually stunning. Really, really cool shots. Didn't realize Jamie Lee Curtis was in this movie. Fantastic.
And she's nominated for an Oscar.
And she is. Hot dog fingers and all. Love it, love it, love it. Watching an entire fight scene with a man with a butt plug in is hilarious and somehow doesn't undercut like the rest of what's going on. It's I don't know how they did what they did, but they did it and it was incredible. And they deserve all the awards. What a great movie. Can't recommend it. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's top nuts bloobies crazy.
Like one of those rainbow multicolored pencils where when you make art with it, you can't guarantee it's going to look good, right? You don't really know. Except instead, they just had this paintbrush that was just this multicolored, just chaotic paintbrush that they painted a beautiful film with somehow. The way that they made all of this chaos come together in Everything Everywhere All at Once was very fun to watch. You know, it was never... I don't think it was ever too much. It was never overwhelming. It wasn't really hard to follow, and
somehow
all of the concepts exactly right.
Somehow,
the concepts
yeah.
They use somehow. This is absolutely great. I don't think that it's an Oscar. I don't think I saw any Oscar-worthy performances in this movie, but I liked it a lot.
Oh, you don't even think Michelle Yeoh was worthy? I thought she's wonderful in it.
I liked it a lot, but no, I wouldn't. I wasn't like, holy Oscar.
I thought they
got
were
four acting nominations.
I think they deserve every one. Yeah.
The way that I was with episode 3 of The Last of Us, when I was like, holy Emmy, I didn't feel that way when I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. I wasn't like, holy Oscar.
I guess to be fair, when I first saw it in theaters, which was super early in the awards race, you know, there's not really any campaigning going on then. I didn't realize that it would be the Oscar front runner that it has become, but I'm excited that it is, and I think it's something that has mainstream appeal while also being kind of this fun art house feeling gem.
Nothing about it makes sense. Like the way that it actually pulls all this stuff together, pulls it off, it makes it cohesive and like easy to follow. Like you were saying, like it's just crazy. I don't know, man. It's a really good movie. I'm glad I finally saw it. I look forward to my first rewatch.
I actually kind of want to rewatch it before, now that we're like really in that last month leading up to the awards. I want to watch it again, so I probably will check it out.
I liked it a lot. And also, it's really funny because, like, so one of the games I run is like a multiversal thing. It's modern age threefold. The threefold setting is like a multiverse. And, like, some of the stuff in this movie is actually stuff that I kind of do in the game a little bit. And, like, I'm like, oh, man, like, that's kind of funny. I don't know. Because they have, like, the people that can channel their other selves in other universes in the game. And so it's just kind of cool. But yeah, and then the last movie I saw, because the sequel looks really, really good, and I love, what's her name?
Jenna Ortega?
Jenna Ortega. I love Jenna Ortega. She's great, and she apparently she's a great person too, off camera. And the Scream 6 movie looks really good. It takes place in New York. I saw the trailer and I was like, that's dope. And so I watched Scream 5. Scream 5, pretty campy, a lot of fan service. Not what I was expecting at all, but still, I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. It is campy and cheesy and all that stuff, but it just has so much slasher goodness. Like, very classic stuff going on. They joke about the tropes in a way that I feel is it adds rather than subtracts. And then, what's his name? Quaid. Dennis Quaid's son's in it. That's great. Yeah. He's in The Boys, if you didn't know that was Dennis Quaid's son in The Boys, Dewey. He's in this movie. And Gina Ortega. And then, like, Courtney Cox makes an appearance. Yeah, Jack Quaid. Yeah, Courtney Cox, all pretty much main cast Scream people come back. It's worth a watch. It's not the worst thing I've seen, and like I want to understand the context because the one after the sequel looks like they're doing their own thing, and they're really going for it. It takes place in New York, which I don't think they've ever really left that town in the series, and it looks good. So I had to watch the prequel, as it were.
For a horror franchise with 5 entries in it, they're all pretty solid. Like, typically with horror franchises in particular, you get some gems and some real stinkers. But Scream, at least, they're all at the very least solid. The first one, I think, is, still the best one. But there have been some good entries. I liked 5. I'm looking forward to 6 a lot.
I am, yeah. Scream. The first Scream movie is fantastic. And it's just, Scream is one of my favorite slasher franchises for sure.
Tried watching one new movie. Most of what I did was watch a whole bunch of old 1990s wrestling and try to get caught up on my wrestling history. But
nothing
the
wrong
movie,
with that.
No, nothing with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
The movie I was watching was a new Netflix original. It's called You People, and I thought this just had an amazing cast, and I was like, "Holy crap, this looks good!" It's got Eddie Murphy, it's got Jonah Hill, it's got Julia Louis-Dreyfus, it's got David Duchovny. It's got Taco, which he's the rapper from Lil Dicky, or from that show. So it's got people. It's got people that I think are funny and people that I think are great. The plot is that Jonah Hill falls in love. He's like extremely Jewish. That's his character. He's super Jewish, and he falls in love with the black girl from
And he's a podcaster, worth noting.
Yes, and he falls in love with the black Muslim girl. And, she doesn't want to tell her family that he's a white Jewish guy. And he doesn't want to tell his family that she's Muslim, but they're in love. And so instead of it being this kind of quirky romance movie where they, fall in love and it's a lot of fun, instead it's like really culturally insensitive for Jewish people and Muslims. It's really hard to watch. It's really cringy. The jokes don't land. They're not funny. Eddie Murphy's character isn't funny. He's not supposed to be funny. He's like a really angry black Muslim who hates the position that he's been put in and hates the Jewish family that he meets. And then they get into arguments over like who were the original slaves. And so it's just not fun. It's not fun or funny, and it is supposed to be, and it is just a total bomb.
Sounds really uncomfortable, man. That sounds really, really, really uncomfortable.
And so for me, I didn't want to talk about it too much because obviously I'm not from either one of those cultures. But I did a quick Google search, and I'm not the only one who feels this way. There are headlines that are all over the place about how this is culturally insensitive and it misses the mark, how the relationship on screen don't work. So I'm not the only one who thinks this one's a bomb. It's got... go ahead, Drew.
I watched this too, actually. I didn't put it on my list, but I watched this too. I also thought it was not good, which is a shame, because like you said, there's a lot of talented people involved. My big thing with it is Jonah Hill, who I like a lot, and his kind of bumbling sense of improv comedy that worked really well in Superbad when he was playing a high school kid just does not translate well at all to a 30-something like man-child. I found it to be kind of grating here. Eddie Murphy is like clearly just here for the paycheck. Like he's like just kind of sleepwalking through the movie. And I think the biggest part of the movie that made it difficult to watch is it's clear that Jonah Hill and I don't have her name in front of me. I wasn't prepared. The actress that plays his fiance in the film. I'm pulling it up so I can speak about this appropriately. Lauren London. Like she's fine, but Jonah Hill and Lauren London like clearly have zero chemistry in this movie, and so there's just absolutely like take away the cultural bits of it, like you said, because like Gary said, the whole point is that she's dating a white guy, and her black parents don't want her to be dating a white boy, and his side's a little bit funnier with Julia Louis-Dreyfus because he has these white parents who like are trying to go above and beyond to show that they're not racist white people
at all. I thought it was horrible and cringy and disgusting. They did the thing where they bring the black girl into the house with the all-white family, and they're like, so how do you feel about police brutality? Like they don't know what else to talk about. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, guys, this movie is just so bad. It's just, there's not a redeeming quality about it except for the cast. And the cast is terrible in it. The casting director did a great job, but everything else is just so bad. I do not recommend You People at all. And the scene where they knocked off Eddie Murphy's his kufi hat, or they knocked off his Muslim crown and then burned it at the dinner table on accident was enough for me. I was just like,
that's pretty rough, man.
Yeah, and it was also, it wasn't just one that he bought, it was one that was given to him by the leader of the Muslim church at a rally. And so I don't know what part of that's funny. It's just disrespectful and bad, and it's just this script should have been thrown in the trash, man.
Yeah, it just doesn't. The premise seems like it should be good, and it just doesn't work, unfortunately.
It has the bones of a rom-com, but when you watch it, it's just a disrespectful piece of crap.
Yeah, on paper, I mean, it could absolutely work, sure, but, it has to be handled correctly. Otherwise, it's just, you can't, I don't know. That's touchy, movie. Man. That is a touchy thing that's still going on. And it's just, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I
really, in this economy, you know what I mean?
I have a couple other movies to talk about really quick in the thriller and horror category. First off, I want to finally talk about Megan, which is the horror movie that's actually doing really well financially in theaters. It's made over $150 million, and it was made for $12 million. So this is just like a typical Blumhouse gem making all the money. Megan went viral. She is the android doll that dances and such in the trailers, and this is like the story itself within is pretty uninspired, I guess. It's the typical, girl loses both of her parents. She's sent to go live with her aunt. The aunt is a incredible tech toy designer who has created this android lifelike doll called Megan. pairs Megan with her niece that she's taken in, and Megan is an AI that's protecting the niece that then, the AI starts to learn and grow and then decides that it's going to be violent towards other people. And so it's like not things you haven't seen before in other sci-fi stories, but just the look and appeal of Megan herself is what I think has gone viral here. And I enjoyed watching it. It's like just a solid for a PG-13 horror movie. I wish it had more gory kills or things like that, but I had fun with it for what it is. So that's Megan.
I also hear good things. My brother and his husband saw this movie, and they were both very high on it. And I don't know, they said it was kind of like almost a comedy in a way.
It's kind of a comedy.
And they said it works really well at that. And they both liked it. My brother does not really like horror.
Greenlit for a sequel, right?
It did. We'll get more Megan.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, this will probably be a horror franchise that we'll see in the future, I think. I don't think this one's going to just go away.
Horror franchises are dope. I enjoy a good horror franchise.
And it's horror has become one of the safest bets as far as box office goes. Like, even in the pandemic era, you can make horror movies for pretty cheap, and usually they'll make a profit. Like we said, Megan was made for $12 million, and it's made already more than 10 times that, and it's going to continue making money, especially right now because it kind of came out in the dead zone between Avatar: The Way of Water and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, so it's kind of just ripe for the picking, for these movies to come out and make a buck. Another movie that I saw is called Missing, and this is a genre that I've really come to like. I don't know if y'all have ever heard the term screen life before, but these are movies that are told just on like computer screens or iPhone screens or using technology. So the whole film is told through Zooms or FaceTimes and web browsing and things like that. So it lends itself well to mystery thrillers. There was a movie that came out a few years ago called Searching that had John Cho in it. I don't know if either of y'all saw that.
No, but I've seen a trailer for either this movie or that movie, and it looked interesting.
And this is kind of like a quasi-sequel to Searching. It has some of the same folks behind it, and the plot of Searching is like briefly mentioned in this one, but it's its own story. So essentially it's about a young girl who's home for the weekend while her mom and her mom's boyfriend go to Colombia on a trip, and then she's supposed to pick them up from the airport on a Monday, goes to pick them up, and they don't arrive at the airport, and the mom's phone's turned off, she can't get in touch, and it launches an investigation for where her mom disappeared to. And so, like I said, it's all told through audio calls and FaceTimes and Zooms, and so I think they're always very visually appealing to watch, to see the leaps that people make in technology and things. My only problem with this movie is that I am not one that during a mystery thriller, I usually try to turn my brain off and just take in the story that's being told to me, and I'm not trying to figure it out. But this one, it's like I was just watching and my brain unlocked where I thought it was going, and I was right. And so, like, when you figured it out, you're just kind of watching it, waiting for it to happen. And so that's my only negative on it. It was that I figured it out without trying, which took away from it a little bit, whereas I would have loved to have been surprised. So I don't know if that's the movie's fault or my own. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm so smart, I figured it out, because that's usually not my approach to it. But I still enjoyed it a lot. I think that these films are fun to watch. So
it's
I
a
recommend
really cool
Searching.
way to tell a story. It's like the found footage of the 2020s.
Exactly.
And I was actually a really big fan of found footage, especially after Cloverfield. Cloverfield's probably my favorite in that vein. But also Quarantine, really good.
The superhero one was good too.
Cloverfield.
Chronicle.
Thank you. I knew it was a C.
Yeah. And so I'd be willing to give this. I like when they try something new. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I would check it. I would check it out.
Yeah, I think there's a place for this type of movie. It's really relatable. You know, it doesn't feel like you're necessarily watching a movie. It feels like you're peeking into someone's life because we've all used all those programs and FaceTimes and that. So it almost tells it from a different point of view. That's the point of view is more relatable. You almost don't have to worry about the character relation.
Yeah. So I would say Searching is really good if you haven't seen that, as a good entry into this genre. And then Missing was solid. Like it's not bad by any means. I did enjoy it, but I'm just mad that I was able to figure it out instead of being surprised. But Searching's good. Missing's pretty solid. I'm trying to think of what it's called. There's a horror franchise, Unfriended. That's the one. Unfriended and Unfriended Dark Web that kind of popularized this genre too, of the screen life genre. Sony literally has created a screen life studio that's dedicated to making these kinds of movies. So yeah, so that's Missing. And then the other movies that I had listed are some Oscar movies that I just haven't been able to talk about over the past couple of months because we've been talking about other things. You know, we've talked a lot about Brendan Fraser on this show before I had seen The Whale. I finally saw The Whale. The movie's fine. I thought it was fine. Brendan Fraser is really good in it. So that's, you know, worth noting. That movie has definitely been very divisive among critics, and there's a lot of critics that really don't like the movie itself and the way the story is told, like basically as if the filmmaker had contempt towards the subject matter, like almost as if it's portraying fat people as like, this is how you shouldn't be, like this is bad, being fat is bad. But for me, as somebody who's been overweight for the majority of my life, now granted, I'm not like morbidly obese to the point where that Brendan Fraser's character is in that movie, but he did things and would have like binge eating sessions. I'm like, yeah, I've for sure been guilty of that before, or had those low moments. So like, I guess I understand what these critics are saying, but like, I'm watching it and seeing parts of myself in the character and could find it relatable in a weird way, even though I'm not as far gone as his character. You know, I'm not 600 pounds. But anyway, that being said, Brendan Fraser's really good in it, and so that's The Whale. I also saw Babylon.
Besides what you had just said, the reviews, sort of what I heard back from the community was that the movie was fine, but Brendan Fraser's great. Mm-hmm. It's really just a vehicle for him to be best actor, not necessarily that movie to be best movie.
It's one of those, you know, it's based on a play. And this happens a lot in these movies when they make a film adaptation of a play. Like, a lot of plays are set in one location. Or, you know, and that's how this is. You are in his apartment the whole time. So it's very claustrophobic because you're in a small apartment with a very large man. And, you know, so there's only so much that the movie can show. You know, it's a drama. It's a very contained drama. So you have to take that for what it's worth. I will say this because it's directed by Darren Aronofsky, who I'm a big fan of, and he's done a lot of movies that I really like. And this is kind of in the same vein as The Wrestler, which is a movie I love. That's a much better movie, I think. But Aronofsky has a great way of kind of having a redemption arc for actors. Like, we saw him back then take Mickey Rourke, who was pretty much like outcast from Hollywood due to the personal issues and everything he had, gave him this kind of great comeback role, and he earned an Oscar nomination for it and everything. Unfortunately, Mickey Rourke's career did not pan out that positively after that. He had a few more roles, and he was in Iron Man 2 and all that. But I love The Wrestler, and this is kind of a similar thing, right? Like, Brendan Fraser is kind of making this career comeback with this Darren Aronofsky movie, and he's nominated for an Oscar now, and he very well could win. But yeah, it's just a much more little self-contained movie and lacks more, you know, Darren Aronofsky's an auteur, right? Like, you very artistic films, things like Black Swan and Mother and all these other things, but this is more, you know, it's an adaptation of a play, so it's fine. But yeah, Brendan Fraser is really good. So I also saw Babylon, which is the new Damien Chazelle film, the director who did Whiplash and La La Land and First Man, and this is the big, like 1920s, Hollywood film as it's transitioning from silent films to the talkies, and it's got Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie, and I absolutely loved this. It's like a 3 hour and 9-minute cocaine fueled ride, jet propulsion ride through Hollywood.
That sounds great.
Sounds dope.
It's really long. It's also been a little divisive. A lot of critics love it, but I think like if mom and dad are just going to the movies one day and happen to catch this, they might not know exactly what to expect. But I absolutely loved it. I thought it was incredible. I recommend Babylon. It's one of those movies where it's over 3 hours long and it feels long, and I could have watched it for another hour or so. Like just inject it into my veins.
Make another one and another one. Give me more.
Yeah. So that's Babylon. I also saw She Said, and this was one that I don't think it ended up getting as much awards attention as they initially thought it might. This is based on the New York Times reporters who uncovered the Harvey Weinstein scandal and figured out how to publish it. So, I mean, it's very much that. It's a journalism drama in the vein of something like Spotlight or other movies of that genre. And I thought She Said was fine. Maybe it's too recent of a story. It never has that big oomph journalism moment. Like, we all know where it's going, right?
Yeah, we know what happened because it just happened.
Yeah, exactly. So I just didn't find it that compelling, and it's like a little over 2 hours long, and you could cut, a good 30 minutes out of it, and it would be better. So anyway, that's She Said. And then lastly, sorry for all these movies, guys, but
You're solid, dude.
The last one I wanted to talk about is Causeway. And this is an Apple TV Plus movie. So you can catch this on Apple TV Plus if you're a subscriber. Small movie, good 90-minute runtime. It's got Jennifer Lawrence, and she is a wounded vet. So she's, returned home to New Orleans, actually, after suffering. I don't want to go into all the details, but suffered injuries in war, and so she's returned home, and she's having trouble adapting, and so she befriends a local auto mechanic played by Brian Tyree Henry, who he's just absolutely wonderful in this. He's so good. If you've seen, he's in Atlanta, the FX show that's popular, and he's been in a few other things. I think he's a big scene stealer when he does show up. I really like him, and he's really great in Causeway. Jennifer Lawrence is actually really good too, but he's incredible, and he actually made his way into the Best Supporting Actor category at the Oscars this year, which is well deserved.
Nice.
So
hell yeah.
He was nominated, and if you're looking for just like kind of a quaint little drama to watch on Apple TV Plus, I recommend it. It's about kind of an unlikely friendship, and I thought it was really solid and touching for what it was. So that's Causeway. Nice. And I think that is it for all my barrage of movies.
Yeah, you watch a lot of movies, Doug. There's nothing wrong with that.
And Mike, a lot that I didn't talk about too, but I don't feel like y'all need to know about all the just.
Yeah, are we transitioning to shows now? I believe
you and I have the same show on our list, and it is an absolute hit.
Absolute hit. This is a Hulu original British comedy show called Extraordinary. It is about a world where everybody has a power, a superpower. So it is a superhero show, but it's a comedy, and it's really, really damn funny.
Hour episodes, half-hour episodes?
I think they're 30. I think they're half-hour episodes. Available on Hulu now, the whole first season. I'm really hoping it gets picked up for a season 2.
Who's in it?
No one that I've ever seen before.
Absolutely no one that you've ever heard of. It is a diamond in the rough, quirky British comedy hit. This is one of those things that could have easily just been bad. And instead, every single person is cast right, and every single line is so funny. Almost every episode will make you laugh out loud of Extraordinary. I recommended it to anybody who will listen, and will continue to recommend it. I can't wait for another season. People have all sorts of different powers. The main character, of course, does not have a power. Her roommates, one of them can connect with and channel dead people. And her eyes change colors, and she speaks, usually like this gravelly, like a gravelly old British man whenever she's channeling, and it never stops being funny. It's funny the whole way through the series. I don't want to tell you all of the roommates' powers, but there's a roommate who you will just fall in love with. He kind of looks like Daniel Radcliffe, except if you beat Daniel Radcliffe with a homeless guy pole. He's hilarious. Everything he does is super quirky and weird. And then the last roommate is married to the ghost girl. He can control time, but only in 2-minute intervals. He wants to be a hero, but he's kind of sort of a piece of shit, and he's kind of a selfish prick. So watching him go through his journey with his power is a lot of fun, and seeing all these different situations that the characters are put in. A lot of times the main character is put in situations where people are feeling sorry for her, or it's so bad you don't have a power, oh my goodness, it sucks to be you. And she's like, nope, it's really not that bad. I'm just trying to go through my life. Leave me alone. I think if you watch Extraordinary within the first 5-10 minutes of the show, you'll be hooked. You'll know whether or not you're going to like it, and you're going to like it. I don't have enough praise for Extraordinary. What about you, John?
Yeah, no, absolutely, definitely certified fresh, hilarious. I haven't finished the first season, but I watched the first 4 episodes. Really loving it. The main character is really thirsty, and it's funny. Not all the powers are inherently jokes. Some of them are normal powers, like flight or super speed, but a lot of comedy comes from them anyway. And then some of the powers are straight up silly, and it's really funny. Someone she works with, she works at a party supply place, and her coworker breathes helium. Helium comes out of his mouth, so he just spends all day blowing up balloons at this party supply warehouse. And when he talks, he's like, yeah, and it's funny.
There's one guy who 3D prints stuff out of his butt, but it takes a few minutes.
Yeah, he can 3D print anything. He has a 3D printer butt. That's what his power is. He pulls his pants down, he squats, he makes faces, sometimes he strains. It's very funny.
Got some great Mystery Men type of vibes to it at times.
It does. And it's honestly, if you like British humor, British comedy, this is spot on. It's right on the money. This is everything you could hope for from a British comedy. It's very funny. Please watch it so we can get another season. And if you've been seeing a lot of, because the way I saw the show at first was TikTok, they were popping up with these clips from people with their silly powers, and I was like, what is this show? And then Gary was like, hey, I'm watching this show Extraordinary. I was like, oh, is that what it is? And so if you've been seeing those clips popping up, this is that show.
There's a character named Jizz Lord.
There is.
He does not have jizz related powers.
No, that's a different character. It's great. It's great stuff. I really like it. I like my favorite probably is the main character's mother, whose power is to control technology, but she's an older woman, an older. You know how you always have to show your parents. Yeah, she's a boomer. Okay, she's a boomer, and so she doesn't understand technology, so she can just badly control things with her brain, and it's really funny.
Even though she can control technology, she still has a hard time doing stuff like scanning through channels or changing the TV. She
doesn't understand how it works. It's funny.
Not good with her power, not good with technology. Yeah, lots of good funny things throughout the show, and I guess it should be mentioned that it's certainly adult humor. It's not really for kids.
Oh, yeah, you can't watch it with your kids. No, definitely not. Absolutely TVMA. There's a lot of sexual jokes, but they're good. It's not
a hit.
Absolutely it.
Another show for me that I've been watching, this one is a sleeper, popped up on Netflix. I was like, this doesn't look terrible. What's going on here? It's called Lockwood and Company. It is not terrible. It feels like if maybe it feels sort of Umbrella Academy-ish. You know how Netflix has their show formula where things, they kind of feel Netflixy. It certainly feels Netflixy. It's not as cheesy as Umbrella Academy at all. The production value is a little bit higher, a little bit cleaner, and it almost has a Sherlock Holmesy kind of feel to it. So it's set in modern day London.
This is a show, right? Not a movie.
It is a show.
Yeah,
Correct.
Netflix show.
Lockwood and Company. And the setting is modern world. It's in London, and in this version of the world, at 6 p.m. is curfew, and you go home because there are ghosts, and ghosts are very dangerous. And they're more dangerous at night, and I think they roam a little bit more at night. So in this world, ghost hunting is a real profession, and it's a real thing. The main character winds up in a really crappy position where something horrible happens to her and her classmates, and the people in charge don't accept responsibility for it. They basically make her take the blame for it. And so she quits and leaves and runs away without having her full ghost hunting degree. And so she can't get hired on at any respectable agencies and comes across Lockwood and Company. It is some more teenagers that run this ghost hunting company. Teenagers aren't really supposed to be ghost hunting by themselves if they're trainees, but these ones claim not to be trainees. There's a lot of cool stuff going on, man. They use iron chains to fight ghosts, so it sort of feels a little bit like Supernatural. The actors, they're teenagers, but they're great. The main guy, Lockwood himself, is just he's got it. He's got that charisma of a young English actor. I could see him really going far. And same thing with the main girl. There's something great about her. She's endearing. Her character doesn't take shit from anybody. You just want to be her friend. You want to be on her side. But her power is that she can hear and talk to very powerful entities. And the main character, Lockwood, can see like residue of murders and ghosts and things like that. So the two of them make a great team. I cannot recommend Lockwood and Company enough. Everybody's got Netflix. It is family friendly enough. The ghosts aren't terrifying. There's no brutal gore. It's probably rated PG-13. It's just good. It's just great. Lockwood and Company, a lot of fun. I will finish it. I'm 3 episodes in. I didn't want to stream yesterday because I was watching Lockwood and Company, and I was like, hey, if the stream gets canceled, I guess I'll just binge watch this whole season. It's one of those shows that you're like, cancel the plans for the day. We're watching Lockwood and Company. It's got everything, man. It's got the mystery. It's got the ghosts. It's got this interesting setting I've never seen before. And the acting is totally passable. Production quality is good enough. Netflix has a little gem here. This will, without a doubt, I think, get renewed for a season 2, maybe even 3. Lockwood and Company is it. If you think that you want to watch it, then you do want to watch it.
Yeah,
the show's developed by. I was just doing some research on it. It's developed by Joe Cornish, who's the guy who directed Attack the Block and.
Okay.
A few other things. So it's like looking at the people behind this. It does look like it's pretty fun.
It's good. It's very good.
Yeah, I saw.
Maybe I'll give it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw this on Netflix, and I was like, that totally looks like something I'd watch, but I wasn't sure. But hearing you talk about it, I'll definitely 100% watch this.
I gave it the double thumbs up on Netflix, not the single thumbs up.
I'll definitely watch this.
This is a tangent. But, Gary, the thing I like about doing this show with you and hearing about the things that you're watching is, like, I feel like you're... Whenever I go into Netflix to watch something, like, I'm usually going with knowing what I'm going to go watch. I'm going to go watch this specific show, or this is the new thing that was released, or, whatever. And I feel like you really do just kind of open and you're like, what tickles my fancy today? Like, what do I see that sticks out to me? And so you'll find a show and so that's why it's hilarious to me when you'll
tell
start
you how I
like,
watch on Netflix. I go to Trending Now or What's New. And I almost always pick something within like the first 6 or 8 of that list. Even if it's not something I want to watch, if it's trending, that means people are watching it, so I should maybe have an opinion, maybe. And if it's new, I'll watch it because people haven't seen it yet, and I should maybe have an opinion, maybe.
Right,
but I never go there to watch a classic.
it'll usually lead to a review where you're like, I watched this and it's not terrible, which is a lead in. Which usually, if Gary describes something as not terrible, that usually means it's pretty good.
And there's pretty much two types of reviews you'll get from me is, I watched this because I hoped it was good, and it wasn't, please don't waste your time on it. Or, I watched this because I didn't know what to think, and it was good, you should watch it. Mm-hmm. That's exactly where we're at here with Lockwood and Company. I watched this because I didn't know what to expect. Kids hunting ghosts, this could be really bad. Alternatively, it could be really good, and it was. I'm super glad I watched it, and do recommend Lockwood and Company to any of you Netflixers out there that are flixing.
I want to go watch it right now.
You should go watch it right now.
I might.
It's funny. I have a show on my list that we kind of stumbled across as well. This is actually on Hulu. It's through FX on Hulu. And there's a show that was recently on there that just ended a few weeks ago called Fleischman is in Trouble. I don't know if you've seen this on there, Gary, because I know you're a pretty avid Hulu user. This is a show that stars Jesse Eisenberg and Claire Danes, and it's also got a few other people in it. I think Lizzie Kaplan is in it, and Adam Brody is in it as well. Basically, the premise, the way that the show is set up is it's Jesse Eisenberg's character. He's recently divorced, and he and his ex-wife have 2 kids. And one day he's the interesting thing about his character is like he's a doctor. He's like never been the popular guy, and now all of a sudden that he's newly divorced, he's like on dating apps, and all of a sudden there's like women that have interest in him and such that he never really had interest like that when growing up. And so he's kind of like adjusting into this new life of dating when one morning he wakes up and he finds out his ex-wife, dropped the kids off with him early, and then she just goes missing. Like, she stops responding, whatever, and all of a sudden so the show kind of presents itself at first as like it's a mystery of what happened to her, where did she go? And that's really not where the show ends up going, and I think that that's a much more interesting hook than the show actually ends up being. It's much more about like midlife crisis and finding yourself and parenting and things like that. And like, so it's pretty solid and well acted. It's just like, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more maybe if I had gone into it with the right expectations set. That being said, it's like an 8-episode series. You can get through it, decently fast. It's well acted. There's some interesting character arcs, but it's just, don't go into it thinking it's going to be like a mystery series, because it really isn't that. It strays away from that pretty quickly. But that's on Hulu, through FX on Hulu. It's called Fleischman is in Trouble. And then the only other show I had listed that I want to talk about is Succession, which has been one of the most popular new HBO series of the past few years. I think Succession premiered in 2018. I've heard so many good things about it. It's like a huge hit with critics. But the 4th season is coming out in a couple months, I think at the end of March. So I finally decided I was going to jump on this one because I feel like I've been missing out. And so I've watched through the first season in about the past week and a half. Are either of y'all familiar with Succession at all?
Not I. No.
Okay. Succession is an HBO drama. So it's basically it's like a satire, black comedy family show. It's about a family that owns like a super huge like media conglomerate, and it's run by Brian Cox. He's like the head of the family, and then there's a bunch of other people in it: Kieran Culkin and Jeremy Strong, and so on and so forth. But it's basically just this cutthroat family that will even slit each other's throats to like get ahead in the industry, and they're all willing to betray each other, and they all are about themselves and the business and making more money at the expense of each other. And it's absolutely incredible. Like, the first season, it's so dark when you kind of understand the show. Like, I think that somebody that doesn't realize what they're watching might first think like, "Oh, this is boring," or "Oh, something." But like when you get into it, it is so good. This show has kind of been dominating the best drama Emmys and awards for the past couple years. The last season came out in 2021, so there wasn't a season last year, but the new season comes out this year. I highly recommend it. After jumping on the first season, I absolutely loved it, and I'm really excited to dive into season 2 here soon. But that's Succession. It's kind of one of those, like, I'm sitting here talking about it like it's this new thing, but there's a lot of people that have been loving this show for the past few years. I'm just late to it, but boy, is it good and worth the hype around it. This is another, actually, Gary, because this might strike your interest. This is another show that Adam McKay was involved in. He actually directed the first episode, which he did the same with Winning Time, which is a show that you and I really liked. I'm kind of hit and miss with some of Adam McKay's stuff. I was on the record last year as not really liking the movie Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
So I find there to be some hit and miss, but his TV stuff I think has been really good, and
I like Don't Look Up.
Was involved in this a little bit.
But I remember being alone in that.
Also, if you've seen the movie The Menu recently, that's gotten a lot of popularity. I saw it back at Fantastic Fest. It kind of gained some popularity since it got put on HBO Max.
That should have been on my list. I watched The Menu recently.
Yeah, the guy who directed The Menu has directed a lot of popular episodes of Succession, and he did Game of Thrones as well, and then did The Menu. So the Succession has a lot of The Menu vibes in it at times, but takes itself more seriously.
Yeah, The Menu, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because, like, it's coming past, but I liked it a lot. I thought the performances were great. I thought the movie was great. I thought it was a solid flick. Like, absolutely go watch it. It's pretty good.
There is another show on Netflix I forgot to write on my sheet, but I can't go another week without talking about it. It's called Cunk on Earth. That's Cunk, Cunk on Earth. It is a mockumentary series. She has been around and doing this bit in England for a while. It's been a BBC Two show. There was Cunk on Everything. There was Cunk on England. The character's name is Philomena Cunk. The actress, I think, is Diane Morgan or something. But the whole premise of the show basically is it's a documentary where they're going to teach you about Earth. And in this, they start at like the prehistoric period with cave paintings, and they go all the way up to the modern age and just teach you about culture and everything that happened in between. And a lot of it is just hilarious misinformation it's just like you will erupt laughing because it's supposed to be just such funny garbage. She sits down and interviews professors and doctors and all sorts of things, but it's very much a Ali G type of interview where it's a professional and she's asking questions that are just so dumb and would make any regular person shake their head, laugh out loud, or look away. But I think people now know this format of hers, and so they explain it to her like she is just a baby child that understands nothing. And so it makes the show, it gives it this really interesting thing where you're still learning from these professionals. You're hearing what they need to teach you, but she as a character just doesn't hear it. It goes totally over her head, and she's an idiot. And everywhere she takes you, everything she says is so stupid, but there is real history there, there's real culture there. It's just such a funny way to teach it. I absolutely love Cunk on Earth. It may not be for everybody, but I love documentaries, and I love travel shows, and I love culture and history. And so for me, this is just like watching, any documentary, except it's very funny instead.
Yeah, I've seen like clips and stuff from this. It's very funny, and she's very funny. I feel like I've seen her somewhere else before. I'm not sure where she's from.
One of the quotes that just popped up is, "They don't have racism in America anymore. When they voted for Obama, they sorted all that out." One of the lines in the show is, "They don't have racism in America anymore. They just have, different, different classes for different people who make different money separated by race. Something like that.
That's pretty funny.
A lot of those facts are great. Conk on Earth is very funny. I think there's only 4 episodes. It's really easy to watch. I think they're maybe 40 minutes apiece, and they just fly by.
What's that on?
Probably watch it. It's on Netflix. You could probably watch it with kids in the room because there's nothing graphic or gross on TV at any point, and they probably wouldn't understand most of the jokes she's making anyways. They're either so dumb or so highbrow they would go right over a kid's head. So I would say family safe enough, just not targeted at kids. Jahan, we have some video games. Drew has a video game.
Dog, we do have video games.
I actually checked my video game off because it's on your list.
It's all good. Yeah, so video games have been dope. This has been an interesting year so far for Xbox Game Pass. A lot of things that I was looking forward to are out finally. At the time that this recording releases, we would have played Hot Wheels. I'm sure that's going to be fun. Monster Hunter Rise came to Xbox Game Pass free, completely free. Go play it. I have played every single installment of Monster Hunter since PlayStation 2. This is one of the better Monster Hunter games. It's very fun. Co-op friendly. Monster Hunter has always kind of had wonky co-op. The best co-op of any Monster Hunter game was definitely World. This one has functional co-op. Still a lot of fun. And once you progress far enough in the multiplayer, it actually kind of fast forwards you in the main continuity anyways. Like main story. And it's just a lot of fun. Everything you love about Monster Hunter is back. They added some new moves that you can unlock and change for all the different weapons. And they have a new pet called a Palmut, which I believe is new to this game, or it's only ever been in Monster Hunter Stories, which I did not play. But the Palmuts are cool. You can ride them. They're dogs that also help you in battle, and they can be your mount. Very cool stuff. You still have Palicos. Me and Gary have had a lot of fun playing this game. One of the most challenging battles I have ever had was in this game. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, it's the creature on the cover, which isn't even the end boss. It's just it's like a mid-tier boss. Really difficult, crazy line that shoots like purple hellfire energy at you. Great installment to the series. Absolutely. What do you think, Gary?
If you haven't played Monster Hunter, it is a boss fighting game. You don't really do anything except for boss fight. You go out and you boss fight. This boss has all these different moves and rotations. You can cut pieces off. You can knock armor off. It gives you more materials so that you can go back to town and build better weapons or better armor so that you can go fight a boss monster so that it can drop its pieces so you can make armor and weapons to fight a boss monster. That's all it is it's just a boss monster fighting game. So if you like boss fights in games, Monster Hunter should be for you. The controls in Monster Hunter are intentionally painful and sluggish. It's not about how fast you can press attack. It's about your animations. It's about the openings for your attack, about the openings that the monster leaves, because monsters all act differently. They move differently. I didn't come to Monster Hunter really until Monster Hunter World, which was their first big, successful, very multiplayer game. I think that Monster Hunter Rise is pretty much just like Monster Hunter World. It almost feels like an expansion. It feels like I'm playing the same game. There are different monsters, though, and that's what's good. There are some classics, some originals that are back in it. But the combat's great. The multiplayer works pretty well. They slimmed down the size of the town, so it's not huge, this giant multiplayer complex anymore. So a lot of things that they kind of trimmed down, they lost some of their setting and some of their flavor, I think. But they have all the things you still want, like little cute kittens cooking up tasty buns for you to buff you before you go into battle and singing little songs about cooking fluffy fucking dango buns. So I'd say Monster Hunter certified fresh. I would
Absolutely.
say if you like Monster Hunter World, you should try Monster Hunter Rise. And if you haven't played Monster Hunter, you should give it a shot, but know going into it, every weapon plays completely differently. They're not the same. They're not even close. They're totally different.
Totally different games. Yeah, they're the weapons are pretty much the classes in this game, and And give it a shot. There is a learning curve, but once you get it, you get it.
Yeah, and I definitely recommend it. Everyone likes a good boss fight. There's nothing better than just grinding boss fights with your friends. It's especially fun if you have 2, 3, or 4 people. You make quicker work of the monster. It could be pretty hard single player sometimes. I'm a fan of Monster Hunter now, and as long as they keep making these games cooperative and multiplayer, then I'll keep dabbling in Monster Hunter.
Yeah, absolutely. This installment's a great. This should be a great intro to the series for sure. I think it's one of the best installments in the series. Monster Hunter World is a lot more. It had broad appeal because they simplified a lot of things. This game carries over a lot of the quality of life improvements that they made in World into a more traditional Monster Hunter game, and I think it really shines because of that. But yeah, Monster Hunter Rise, check it out, certified fresh, free on Game Pass. They dropped a lot on Game Pass though, so like we're going to be singing some praises here. Hi-Fi Rush, an interesting rhythm battle platformer. I got to play a little bit of. So you have to fight. If you fight to the rhythm, you get bonus attacks and damage and all kinds of bonus points. So you're trying to fight very much in a Devil May Cry like style game, but to a rhythm. And I've played other games like this. A good one is Hellsinger, which is an FPS version of that where you shoot to the rhythm. And then, there's like Cadence of Hyrule and Tomb of the Necro Dancer that are also fun rhythm games. This is a good one. I had a lot of fun with it. I've only played like 15 minutes. But I liked what I was seeing, and I want to give it more time.
I actually I've played this game a decent amount, and I like it a lot. I'm pretty bad at it, but that doesn't keep me from liking it. I'm playing it on like the story difficulty to make the beats easier for me, so that I feel cool and powerful.
Hey, that's fair.
I like it a lot.
I really like BPM games. I have like an internal metronome for games like that. I rule at them. I play them. I really like them. I did not like this one. I didn't care for it. I didn't really like the platforming aspect of it. I didn't really do it for me. It felt like a free game. It's a good thing it's free. I don't think anybody would have bought this.
I think it's interesting. So it is Bethesda. Bethesda made this game. And Microsoft owns Bethesda. Obviously, that's why it came out day one. And we're starting to see Bethesda put out their games day one on the Game Pass. It's exciting, and they definitely seem like they tried to make the main character a character. You know what I mean? They're trying it out. I don't think he's necessarily going to stick as like a big character, but hey, I liked what I played so far. But
I liked it a lot. It gives me major Jet Set Radio vibes. Or if you've played, I think it's still on Game Pass because it was an Xbox exclusive, but Sunset Overdrive.
Oh, right.
Which is a great game, and it has very similar vibes, except that's obviously a big open world game. This is much more contained, a linear experience, but I think it's very fun. But I think the art style, kind of cel-shaded, is great. The cutscenes and everything are so well animated. I think from a style standpoint, the game is awesome and worth trying in itself. But I think the gameplay is really good and really fun.
It definitely has a lot of style. The gameplay's fun, and I'm definitely willing to spend some more time with this one. Free on Game Pass. Free
right. With your monthly subscription of $15 a month
for unlimited games. And then another one, a really interesting one that Gary pointed out to me, is because Microsoft bought Rare. GoldenEye 007, free on Game Pass from the N64, free with updated graphics, I believe online multiplayer capability. And
it did not have online.
Does it not?
Xbox. I did boot it up and
sad.
try. It's a straight up N64 emulation, except the controls are better, so you can actually use
the controls are so much better.
But at least, unless it's hidden somewhere I wasn't able to figure out, all I was able to do was split screen multiplayer local. I
thought it was going to be online, and that I was really excited. It should be. Get on it, Microsoft.
I think there's a way you can do online or utilize that on the Switch, but I know on Xbox it is just an in emulation.
Yeah, because the Switch has in their emulation like software, in their retro arcade or whatever, they have the capability to play all the games online. So I imagine it just feeds into that. But yeah, GoldenEye 007, you can check it out. I started playing it again, got some of the nostalgies. There's the JoJo Bizarre Adventure Fighting game, if you're into that. Good stuff. Then also Darkest Dungeon came back to Game Pass. Good times. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. A lot of good stuff on Game Pass. I've been very busy, and I'm still with the Game Pass stuff, and I'm really excited for the 20th when Atomic Hearts, I already pre-installed it, Atomic Hearts drops as well on Game Pass.
I'm excited for last week, which happens in 2 days whenever Hot Wheels comes out.
Same. I'm also really excited for it. Also free on Game Pass. Check it out. We're not sponsored. We should be. I wish we were, because I love Game Pass.
Yeah, does anybody have a friend who works at Game Pass? Tell them we're always talking about Game Pass. We could be sponsored by Game Pass. That'll save us $15 a month at least.
Oh yeah, just give us free Game Pass. We'll talk about Game Pass for free Game Pass. Hell yeah.
Deal.
I'm in.
I've been mostly playing Hi-Fi Rush, like you said, but I actually just recently jumped into a replay of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. It's actually it was the PlayStation Plus Game of the Month last month in January, so I had this on there. I've actually already gotten every achievement in the Xbox version, so now I'm playing it on PlayStation so that I can get the Platinum, just earn it again, because I'm a psychopath. Mm-hmm. But also the sequel to Jedi Fallen Order comes out soon, which is called
Jedi Survivor.
Yeah. And then you have to play that one on both systems. Oh man, that's horrible.
Yeah, potentially. But actually, Jedi Survivor just got pushed back, I think, 6 weeks here recently. So it's supposed to come out in March. I think it's coming out in April now. But yeah, I just wanted to give the first one a replay before getting into that one so that the story's fresh. And man, it still holds up. It's a really great game.
It is.
Especially considering Jedi Fallen Order doesn't seem like it was that long ago that it came out. But it came out in 2019. So it's been, a solid 3 years plus. So I'm playing it again. It's like playing it for the first time. It's really fun. Good game. Good adventure Star Wars game. And that's it.
Excellent. And with that, I do believe that wraps up our conversations for this week. Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for those who are watching live. And just thank you in general for being a part of our community. We look forward to hearing from you on our Twitters and, in our Discord or wherever you want to come talk to us. We're around and we like to talk to people. So, yeah, thanks for watching Fresh Out the Podcast. I have been Johananon at RockFact on Twitter.
It's me, Casualty CDG, co-host of Fresh Out the Podcast, but also Fresh Out the Box. That's where Jahan and I do all original stories. We're always making stuff up, having fun with new characters, new friends, new games, playing games like Dungeons and Dragons in that we roll dice to find out the results and we use our imagination. But not Dungeons and Dragons, because there are so many companies, there are so many games to be played, and so many indie games and creators that we have to just touch everything and talk to everyone and play all the other games all at once. So come check us out. Every Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll be trying to make you laugh or maybe squirm. Sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's horror because it's Jahan and I with no Drew to filter us. So there's that.
Oh,
if
no.
you're interested in that, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 8 p.m. until 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. Tell your friends to like this podcast. You like this podcast. We're at the end of the episode. Just go up to the rating real quick before you go to your next thing. Click the 5 stars, whether it's in Apple Music, whether it's in Spotify. Just give us that rating. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you on the next one, Ant-Man Styles.
Yeah, I'm Drew Munhausen at Drew Munhausen on Twitter, and as Gary said, I believe our next episode is going to be a deep dive, spoiler and non-spoiler discussion of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which I haven't talked to him about this yet, but I'm probably going to rope Mayor of Nerdtropolis himself, Sean Tajpour, to be on that one with us, because he has, I think, been on all the other Marvel discussion ones with us in the past year or so.
He did ask if we were doing one in the chat, so I think he's interested.
Sean, you're invited. If you're listening, you're invited.
But yeah, that's it. Episode 74. We did it.
Thanks everyone for listening, and stay fresh. Ooh.